Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Manitou Springs City Council for August the 20th, 2024. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
City Council members Julie Wolf.
Here.
John Shada.
Here.
Judith Chandler.
Present.
Natalie Johnson. Here. Michelle Weatherholt. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune.
Present.
And Mayor John Graham.
Present. Thank you. Okay, and with that, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Council, you've all had an opportunity to look over the agenda. I would look for a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Johnson and motion originally made by Mayor Pro Tem. Let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. The agenda is approved. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. This is the portion of the meeting when anyone in the audience is welcome to speak on any non-agenda item for up to 3 minutes. I have a couple of requests to speak. Nancy Kowalski, we'll start with you, Nancy. Denise, the city administrator. That's okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, very good. Okay, next then, Anthony Stripe, I believe. Strip, sorry. Okay. My apologies. Thank you. If you'd come forward, sir. Yeah, have a seat at the desk there, the table. And okay, on the microphone, the middle button, you press that, it'll go green. Speak about, it's good to be about 3 inches away from the microphone. And if you'll start by giving us your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Anthony Sturpey. I live at 601 Manitou Ave, Unit 6, right across the street here at the Manitou Apartments. I'm here today to request that we do something about the resident parking. We used to have a sign for resident parking on the side of the street there, and I've been having some issues. We all have. It's been getting busy with the summer season, and we are having a hard time finding parking. My vehicle has been in 3 accidents in the last month, just from people kind of coming and going, and it's not our normal residents. Yeah, it's tough to go to the grocery store on a Saturday and come back and have a place. With some of our residents, we've all kind of chatted and we're willing to pay for parking. It has come to my attention that one of our residents spoke to our landlord that said he had taken down the sign. He said that he was not willing to pay for parking, so we were looking for an alternative to possibly see what you guys could do about getting us parking there. There's only about 10 cars on the side of the street there, and you know, we're willing to pay for it or whatever we need to do, but it would be nice to come home and have a parking spot. So that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I neglected to mention, we typically don't respond back during.
Nope, I understand.
But we have your contact information.
Okay.
And I think we have a pretty good understanding of the problem.
Great.
So we'll look for a solution.
Thank you very much, Council. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, so I just had 2 requests to speak. I don't know if there's anyone else who wanted to speak. Juan, yeah, you want to take care of some business there? And meanwhile, we do have a couple more requests to speak. Linda Moreland. It's the topic, I believe, is library donation.
Okay. Linda Moreland, 37 Minnehaha Avenue, Manitou Springs. Just wanted to let the city know that the Women's Fellowship at the First Congregational Church donated $2,000 for Manitou books to the Carnegie Library. They asked me to come and accept the donation last Saturday, and I did, and thank them. We'll need to send them a thank you. But when I looked at the check when I got home, it was made out to PPLD. So I called the secretary, and she said that when they called the library, that's what they were told to do. So I sent the check to the library. But I just wanted you to know that that's great. They raised all that money, and it is for Manitou books. So that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then next, we have a request to speak from Isla Quinn. Isla? Thank you. I think I got it right. It's okay. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, yeah, it has to go great. And then if you be about 3 inches, have your mouth about 3 inches from the microphone.
I talk
If
loud
you would,
enough.
please.
Is it
Okay.
Okay. All righty. I have concerns about the
Oh,
Ruxton
I'm
Avenue.
sorry, we have to have your name and
Oh,
address. Isla.
Isla Quinn, 357 Pilot Knob Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. The Ruxton Avenue project, I believe, is imminent and is going to start in 2025, from what I understand. And as far as I know, we have, as the citizens in that area, have not been updated about any traffic plan. Obviously, Pilot Knob cannot handle the traffic from Ruxton. So that's my question is, what is the plan to handle the traffic that's going to be diverted when that project begins? And I'd also like to know the date that project begins, because I don't know.
But could you say that last part again and
It's the
speak a little more?
date, if
Okay.
the date the project begins, so we can be prepared. Obviously, the people in Ruxton have to have a place to park. We are the only access egress road, and we cannot handle the traffic. So we need to have a plan in place, and satellite cars, buses, no cars up Ruxton. It's going to be impossible for us to live on our little tiny street where two cars cannot pass each other. So we need a plan. And the other thing I'd like to request is that as you go up Ruxton, there are 4, 5 parking places on the right-hand side. We need to eliminate the last parking place immediately. I was almost hit twice today by the bus who was at least 3 feet over into the lane that was coming down Ruxton. It is very dangerous. It happens all the time, and that parking place needs to go. It's impossible to get around it without the bus going into the other lane. And the other thing I wanted to find out was what I had brought up in the Ruxton Avenue Improvement meeting sometime back. The idea, which I never heard anything else about, of instead of tearing up the entirety of Ruxton to put in the water line for the city of Colorado Springs, if we're going to pursue obtaining that piece of property, which I understand is the plan, why can't Colorado Springs run their new water line down that Midland right away? And eliminate the need to completely destroy Ruxton and have it shut permanently for 3 to 5 years while that construction's going on. That's all. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Anybody else? Yes, sir, come up.
Hello, my name is Peter Summers, 724 Duclos Avenue, apartment A. I was wanting to revocalize the Route 36. I understand that it's going to be coming to an end here in September. I'd like to put the notion forward that we extend that all year. That's been really beneficial for me, both going from the bottom of Pawnee over to Fields Park to do frisbee golf and to get a little bit of exercise in. I've been really enjoying having that bus be a alternative to just walking the full way there, both up the hill and because Fields Park is all the way down each of every single hill, it seems, and then walking back up at the end of my activity time has been very beneficial, in addition to the access to the pool that has been enabled for my wife. She's been, and until the renovation started, but it's been really nice to have that functionality there because she doesn't drive. To have that access for her has been really beneficial. So I'd like to suggest that 36 gets a all year round instead of just the 33 to the parking lot and the incline and back. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Okay, with that, then we'll go ahead and proceed on to the next item of business. That's our consent calendar. We have 5 items on the consent calendar tonight. First is the presentation of warrants. Second is the approval of the August 6th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes. Third is consent to accept public art donation. Fourth, requesting approval of a revised quitclaim deed associated with a right-of-way transfer from El Paso County. And fifth, consideration of adopting resolution number 1324, a resolution of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, authorizing the city administrator to execute a claim on behalf of the city. All these items were included in the council packet. Certainly, if any council member would like to take an item off and discuss it separately, we can do that. If not, I would look for a motion to accept and approve the consent calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motioned by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Fortune. Let's go ahead and vote.
And the motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. Okay, next item of business then is presentation discussion on the shuttle and trolley options. I believe we have Juan and Roy to discuss that together.
Good evening, Roy Cheney, Deputy City Administrator.
Juan Alvarez, Mobility and Parking Director.
Tonight, we're going to talk about the shuttle and trolley options and comparisons. First, would like to go over the next slide, sorry. Like to go over the challenges. Since we received the trams, we have had challenges with them. With parts falling off, glass breaking, the battery dying suddenly as we're using them, lose power. The gauge is actually not reading correctly. So we've had a lot of issues with the trams. We kept track of those. We reached out to the company. Recently, we did send them in. They picked them up. They worked on them. At this point, it was supposed to be about 30 days. We're past that point. They did say they're fixed right now, and they could redeliver them. We're going to be looking at that. But some of the problems on top of that, or the good side of that, we were able to use for a pilot study, and we went 23 days from June 5th to 27th. And some information was useful for us today. So as we look for the future in trams or vans or trolleys, the numbers here show a total of 2,080 passengers and about 109 passengers per day on average. Saturdays were about 135 folks, and then on Sundays we're at 89. So basically, once we went over through that pilot and got the numbers and we put it in service on July 2nd, there's about 60 days that it's been out of service. So we really did not get the use on the trams we were hoping to have, and very disappointed in the quality. So as we go through this presentation, some of those what we're gonna need to know is how we need to proceed, and we have some ideas. We did some research and we'll see how council wants to proceed. So Juan, go ahead.
So as we were facing a lot of these challenges, we were looking for one of the best companies that gave us like the best pricing and best style of shuttles was Mobility Works. And we want to introduce to you 3 shuttles, may be a good fit for city of Manitou Springs. So to begin, we have this gas shuttle, it's called a 350 gas shuttle. It's a 50-passenger shuttle that's all-wheel drive. Comes with vinyl seats, seat belts, 13 to 16 miles per gallon. And on the approximate cost, it does include some of the optional items that you see on here, which is the vinyl wrap, similar to the way we had our trams. And it does come with a bike rack already with that can accommodate 2 bikes. It's got the high roof, and a feature that's a big advantage on this, on the bottom layout, you have the ability to configure the seats to the needs of the department. So if we can adjust them to side or from front to back, and it also has the advantage of adding an ADA on there. And to add an ADA ramp, it's anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000. And that price is excluded from the approximate cost that you see on here. Another cost that's excluded is the bifold doors, which we recommend. This is mostly for elderly or children to be able to get off and on the shuttle safely. And the time for this, the approximate time for delivery for this specific shuttle is about five months out.
Yes, please, if we could go ahead and let them present and then we'll ask questions. Okay, go ahead. Actually,
Okay.
you've got 5 vehicles here you want to.
Sure.
about.
So going to the next slide. This particular model is very similar to the first gas shuttle. This is the Mercedes executive Sprinter van. Similar features, all-wheel drive. It does have an upgraded interior with leather seating, seat belts, vinyl flooring. And this one's slightly better on the gas mileage. It's 14 to 17 miles per gallon. It does also include the vinyl, the bike rack, the high roof. One feature on this one that the first one does have is that you're not able to configure any of the seating on this van. It also comes in black. This one only the approximate delivery on this one is only 30 days. And the reason the approximate cost for this one is because it's tied to a rebate, and that's why you see that price at $102,000. It does have similar to the other one, does have the advantage of adding the ADA lift and also the bifold doors as well. Going into the next slide. So this is where the first 2 were gas. This is electric, and it's called the 350. As far as the interior, very similar to the gas models. The only one of the features on this one is a configuration on because it's electric. On the seating, you're not able to configure the seats because of the way the batteries are laid out since it's electric. But it does have the bike racks, a high roof, and the option, the vinyl wrap. It does come with the bifold doors as an option. And the approximate cost on this one does come with it's a rebate's already included on this one, and that's the price you're seeing it. For the exception of the bifold doors and the ADA as an option to be included on here.
And we'll go back to the trolley now. And as you might remember, we discussed that a couple of years ago. We did some research at Estes Park with their trolleys. They've had them now 5-6 years. The trolley, some of the things against the trolley back when we talked about it was the cost. Base price is $500,000. And then if we add different parts to it, different, the vinyl wrap, bike racks, I recall the cost being more like 800,000 2 years ago. So it is very expensive. Also, the EV vehicles are still a challenge. And as we can tell with just these trams, that there's uncertainty about the batteries and even what you do with the batteries and how they function in the cold weather. So it's going to be important that when looking at the trolley, is it something that we can use, or should we wait for battery technology to become better? And even on an environmental side of batteries, what do they do with them after they're discharged and they need to get rid of them? So there's a lot of challenges there. The other side, I believe in our conversations in the past, was that this is more a tourist looking vehicle versus maybe not for the residents. So there was some issues concerning that. The last part and the biggest issue maybe could be some of the challenges right now for the bus drivers. I'm talking with Mountain Metro and also Estes Park, is them learning how to use regenerative braking. So going down hills, you actually ride the brakes so that it charges up the battery. A lot of people are having trouble learning it. And so if they don't use it right, it doesn't help with keeping the battery charged. So there's been a lot of complaints about that. Mountain Metro's facing that same issue when they were testing these out with the drivers. So again, it is something that we could do, but it is a high expense item for something else like these vans that we can do, probably take care of what we need in the community here for transportation. Now do a comparison. If we look at the next slide, Juan, if you can move it. We put a comparison of the different vehicles. The gas vehicles are still the most reliable, and the electric, interesting enough, the price is very good. Talking to the manufacturer, they made a bunch of electric vehicles, assuming that cities were going to buy them, and cities are not ready for EVs. So now they're sitting, and that's why the price is what it is. So we could get electric vans, again, not knowing the battery issues and how well they'll function in Manitou based on reality once we get them here. So the gas actually is the most reliable. We could look at one gas, one electric, the test electric. But some interesting information I got about the gas and did some math. Basically, if we have 3 trips a day or 3 trips an hour, 12 hours a day, at 36 trips a day, and we were able to put 8 passengers on a van per trip, that's 288 passengers a day. And if the average normally is about 2.5 people in a car, we would basically take off out of the system of 115 cars a day. And I know that we're adding a gas vehicle, but that's one gas vehicle versus 115 cars. And that equals about 529 metric tons of CO2, not to mention other chemicals that are in the gas. So I still think the gas could be a valuable solution for us. And, as time goes by, maybe the EVs, batteries, electric even gets better and maybe safer. And we can still do that in the future too. So just keep that in mind when you look at these different prices. Okay, Juan.
Okay, and looking at the comparisons on the gas, huge advantage. It's each one here of the gas shuttles can give you over 400, about 400 miles. And another advantage with with the gas is that it's all-wheel drive, so you can ride this vehicle during inclement weather with no issues or no problem. That's one of the downsides for the electric vehicles, that they don't recommend that we run them, during the winter season when you have snow. Or just the inclement weather is really bad. The trolley gives you about 50 range per charge. The current trams were anywhere from like 20 to 30 miles per charge. And the 350 EV gives you 126 miles per charge. Now, it does have an advantage, especially like with our with our charge point chargers. If we use a level 2, it can charge within 4 to 5 hours. Or if we have an emergency, we could use a level 3 fast charger it'll charge within 30 minutes if we needed to. I just wanted to also show our capital improvement plan. For both the allocated funds that we have into our mobility hub, which is this year and the next couple of years, we do have about $1.4 million going into mobility hub this year, $3 million in 2025, and another $1 million in 2026. We did budget to purchase shuttles in the next couple of years. And due to the increase of expenses, we did put it at $280,000 for 2026.
Next slide. All right, so now we'll talk a little bit about the possibility of us running like a 36 route van. So if we look at peak season, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Mountain Metro route costs us almost $149,000. We determined through internal operations with staff, we would be about $73,000, and that covers para and Medicare and all the things on top of that, not just the hourly rate. And then if we went year round, Mountain Metro wants to charge us almost $298,000, but we could internally do that for $157,000, just a little more than the peak season. To get year-round service. So there are pros to internal operation. Of course, we're not bound by the public contracts. We can make adjustments. It is more cost effective, allows more flexibility for us to run it. We can decide on the service areas a lot easier. We can consider residential areas easily, and ability to flex as we go into winter and summer. We can also use it for other means, like for events, to help with shuttling folks in. And then of course, help maybe with even employee shuttles. The cons, we do pay for the fuel, and we also on a monthly basis figure that would be about $500. We have to do the full-time staff and also make sure they're here and have to take that responsibility to take care of them. Backup vehicle, of course, if something goes down, breaks, that's on us to make sure we have a solution. And then, of course, the upfront costs are higher to get the vehicles. Go ahead, Warren.
Okay, so that completes our presentation. We just wanted to open it up for questions and ultimately, to get direction from council.
Great, thank you. And with that, it's questions and comments time. Council. Julie, I think you had, yeah, go ahead first and then we'll go to Judith.
Thanks for doing all this research. Can you tell me the benefits of why we would want to have a vehicle that allows us to reconfigure the seating? You mentioned that as a benefit of some of the vehicles, and I don't really appreciate why I would care about that.
It's just an option that it's an option that they come with, where you can move the seats around and you just to accommodate people. We just have the ability to change them where the other one doesn't. So not really that important, but it's more of a feature that it comes with.
What one side benefit could be ADA, and then we could remove a seat, an extra seat or two if we needed to accommodate a bigger ADA requirement on an event, let's say, or something. So, but basically though, it's not, we would probably have a configuration and keep it. So it's
And-
not critical.
Do you happen to have the numbers of what it would cost if we do the ADA and the wrap and the 2 bicycle rack and the high roof? If we do all of that, do you know what all of that would add up to with the first 2 gas vehicles that you reviewed? How much extra are we looking at? And also I wanted to ask you, what's the benefit of a high roof?
Well, that's the stand. So there's a little easier for head space. So you don't have to crouch too far down. So it just gives that comfort and
Oh,
not
okay.
banging your head on when you're getting in there. It looks like Wanda ADA, if you want to.
Yeah, so the ADA would be an additional 15,000 to because
For which one are you talking about?
the first gas one I presented.
Okay,
So this one, the approximate cost is 106,000. So you would add another 15,000 to add the ADA lift. And then another 16,000 for the bifold doors, if that was an option we would want to go with.
that was 16 grand, you said?
For the bifold doors is 16,000, correct?
And the rack
15,000.
and the bike rack?
That's already included in the price.
Oh, I thought that was under extra. Okay, and the
Yep.
high roof? That's
That-
already included?
That's already included.
And how about with the Mercedes? Do you have that?
So the approximate cost does already include the vinyl wrap and includes the bike racks, the high roof. The ADA would be another 15,000 to the 102,000. And if we wanted to add the bifold doors, it would be an additional 16,000.
And can we put a bike rack on that?
That's included already in there.
And that also has the high roof?
Yes, correct.
And what did you say the delivery time was for the first gas vehicle that you have listed?
It's 5 months out,
And you said the Mercedes is 30 days out?
30 days.
And is the $500 a month estimate for gas, that's in addition to the human resources costs that you have in your chart, our cost savings?
The 500 is extra for gas expense.
And
And
so we'd be
maintenance.
looking, so the human resources dollar amount, that's just employees?
Just employees.
Just employees.
And that doesn't include anticipated repairs or anything like that?
No, that would be in
maintenance.
that 500 range
kinda
and it,
included.
yeah.
And then at one point I thought, and I don't know if you can respond to this, but at one point I thought I was told that the trolleys we have that when they were still working weren't on the road yet because we couldn't find any employees to hire. And therefore we were maybe going to look at hiring out, and that wasn't working either, to see if we could contract it out. Is that anticipated to be a big problem if we were to go internally?
That's a good question. We initially were trying to figure out the best way to get employees and for just seasonal, so it was tough. We were able to get plenty of applicants and fill those roles as far, is that right? Juan?
Correct. That is correct.
And so that ended up not being a big issue. The biggest problem we had was weather related initially. We couldn't, the trams are not really designed to be driven in ice or snow. And that was our biggest problem, getting them ongoing.
Oh, and did the gas operated, did all the vehicles come with all-wheel, what is it called? All-weather tires?
All-wheel drive?
No, the tires.
Tires. That's something we can probably request on what we need. I
'Cause
mean,
if
a
we
lot of
just-
times they don't give you maybe the top of the line tires. Would have to request
Yeah, but
that.
if we're gonna be going up and down
Yes.
hills,
Yeah, it'd be
I
good to
don't
get a good
I think
quality
we
tire.
necessarily need snow tires, but I would hope we get, I think they're called all-season
Yeah.
tires or whatever. I'm not really a car person.
You bet. And the cost difference is not too bad to be able to just extend it to an all-season tire. That's a good
Okay, and then
idea.
lastly, and I'm sorry I'm taking so long. It's my limited understanding that the problem we're having with the trolleys is a very nationwide problem right now, where a lot of the companies that started making these EV shuttles are going bankrupt or things aren't working well. Is that correct? That this is it's not just that we happen to get a couple of lemons, but this is kind of a trend right now?
Some of the reports I see that companies are fly by night, and some others are just not with the EV quality. It's not there, or some of it hasn't been tested out enough. So there's always challenges initially. So I am hearing reports too, and you're seeing some companies that are kind of disappearing or changing names, and we don't know who they are anymore either. So it's just one of those things in a new business, and it's riskier because it's so new.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Denise, you had, I think, something to interject.
I just want to give it up a little bit more information about the budget. They talked about that's in the SIP. I do need to mention at the end of 2024, we're expecting to only have 84,000 in reserves in the parking revenue. Next year, we're going to have to do a loan to get the Dillon completed, and the year after a loan. And if we do this, it's going to have to be lease purchase. So we're going to have to really go back and see what the loan is going to require and what that looks like, because with the Dillon coming in as expensive as we're anticipating, and Hiawatha, there are a couple of things that we need to manage. And so right now we're planning for a loan for the parking enterprise, and how much we need. We're looking for final numbers so we know what to look for in the loan, and then an enterprise, what it takes to do the loan with an enterprise. So I just do want to mention, if we do this, it's going to be a lease purchase. We'll want to check that out before we do a loan for the enterprise, for the Hiawatha and for the Dillon, and how those two may impact each other.
Thank you. Judith, I believe you had a comment or question?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of comments. So this is something that's really near and dear to my heart, and I think it's been one of my signature issues as a counselor to really work and strive to provide not only remote parking and get, really take a good stab at our parking and congestion issues, but as Mr. Summers, commented, provide free, easily accessible transportation. Hopefully that's free if possible to our residents, tourists, visitors, etc. So I really appreciate this initial presentation. I would certainly like to see this expanded to a work session, because we really have three different moving parts going on here to my thinking, and that they're all three are different and really deserve a good look. One is the status of our current EV trams. The second is, should we take service in-house or not, and what that would look like and what would it cost? And then our routes, year-round, seasonal. So what I'd like to see eventually is an overall plan. So I'll hit my first thing on the status of our fleet of EV trams. And I say this because I felt like we did a pretty deep dive trying to vet what it was that we needed. And I remember we had a van come in, and several council members, we zipped around town and we were going up and down and saying, this is going to be great. And then we kind of ended up with something a little different. And I'm just wondering if, based on the problems that we're having, if we, meaning council and the city, need to kind of really rethink our vetting process and do a little bit deeper dive into that. My first question is, are the repairs under warranty on these E-trams?
Yes,
Okay, so that's all covered under warranty.
that's correct.
And then when these EV trams come back, are you anticipating that they will be re-entered and be part of our overall fleet in some capacity, that we will be using them? Or is that something that, because I've seen the look at your face. Okay, I'll let you answer that one question.
I will answer that.
Oh,
I would say no. I recommend that we try to work out a deal with the company and get as much money as we can back. I don't think they're going to satisfy our needs here, and we haven't used them much. So we've already been talking to them about how dissatisfied we've been with these trams.
Mhm.
They're really not, I guess the term is a lemon, and they're just not working out at all. And actually they've been pretty receptive to an idea of trying to do something. So we're in conversations, but I don't recommend we use them.
As I recall, they were about 75,000 per, not including whatever our situation was with having drivers. Those are the kinds of things that I want to see on a presentation, by the way. I want to know from you, yay or nay, what the status of that is and your educated opinion so that we can kind of move on. Because
And
what
just one comment on that is just, we just really, like today, we're in those discussions on that part of it.
got
So
it.
there wasn't time to put that in the presentation.
Yeah.
So
And I appreciate you being honest, though. Good to know. I did do a deep dive into Mobility Works today, and just looked at their company. To me, it just kind of feels like we're on repeat, like we kind of got, here's some E-trams, let's try these. And now today here's two more. And, I don't mind, taking a look at them in an overall plan, what that would look like, but I don't want to just say, gosh, let's pick one, because I don't see ADA compliance as an add-on. ADA is standard equipment, right? You put that as like, well, if you want to make it ADA compliant, we need to spend 16,000 more. That should just be in the purchase price, right? So we need to make sure that all of our vehicles are ADA compliant, and if we're not going to use those E-trams and we're going to sell them or try to get our money back or whatever, then we talk about what do we replace them with? And then we talk about how does that affect our routes? And that affects, do we take it in-house? That's kind of how my mind works. I would want to have an option to test drive any of these vehicles that we vet if possible, not necessarily a trolley. And I also want to ask you, why did you not vet a gas/diesel trolley in this presentation? Because there are several communities that are using them very successfully, and some of them have a vintage look. Breckenridge is one example, but theirs are diesel, and they're incredibly happy. And while I'm not crazy about gas and diesel, we live in a community where I think we're going to have to do some kind of mixture of both. I'm not opposed to looking at a trolley. While I think it's great for tourists, I think it also, if we're going to have a trolley going from the Dillon, I'd want to ride it. So I think that, to look at that. And speaking of the URA, I'm hoping that when we have budget discussions about how we're going to pay for this, that we invite the URA to the table to see how much, because this is a real boon to the URA area, this micromobility hub, as a source of funding. So those are just some ideas and thoughts I have for your initial presentation, but I would like to see a gas/diesel trolley as part of the discussion.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments and questions? Nancy?
Yeah, I agree with what Judith has been talking about. I think ADA is a given. We need that. Were we able to check out any hybrids at all given that they weren't in the presentation? I'm assuming that nothing was appropriate
Hybrids are not really out there yet in the van.
in the van.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just, we don't even know when we would get them, and my understanding, they don't even really have any. So it's kind of not here yet. And in my opinion, in the future, hybrids are gonna be it. We're gonna have a choice of fuels and maybe balance the approach on energy use and not go after one. So I think eventually that's gonna go that route. But for now, it's taking its time to
Yeah.
get there.
And I would certainly agree with trying to offload the current ones. Sadly, I think we did learn a lot from them, but it's very, very disappointing that they didn't work. The concept worked, but the vans or whatever their trams didn't work. That being said, I am a huge supporter of the concept. I think, first of all, I will always support public transportation over more parking. I think we need public transportation before we need yet more parking. I think we need to, and I very much appreciate you doing the calculations, and I'd love for you to send them to us on the ridership or how many we can fit on in the course of a day, and compare that to Route 36, especially ridership. And one of my questions is how much money do we have? So thank you for Denise for answering that. And also, I would love to hook the map board into this as well. I think that we have a citizens board, whether it meets what they're interested in or not. I think that this is critical to our city. And I would love to see them engage and look at this some more and give us their recommendations as well. I would also agree with Judith that it's probably premature to be picking out what van we want if we don't even know when the Dillon's going to be ready, and some other things. And bottom line, I'm not as concerned about which van we buy as opposed to the concept. And I also think bringing it in-house will be good because I think that flexibility is going to be more and more important as we work through all these issues. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Natalie, please.
So I guess I have a question about the timing. So, since we're meeting in a couple months to discuss the budget, was this so that we could purchase something that would go into effect in the fall? Is that why we're hearing this presentation today, or is it just a timing thing, or?
This body asked us to bring this back as quickly as we could to talk about the options and what there was available. So we're bringing it back to you to kind of ask for direction so that we can start looking at budget and loans, because we have to do a loan and we need to know kind of where you're wanting to go so we can start those conversations to get the Dillon done as quickly as possible and how to finance everything that needs to be done.
So we would make a recommendation today or at a work session, and then that would help you prepare the budget, even though we could change it in October, but it would be in our October discussion that we'd be actually looking at how everything's going to play out for
Right,
next year.
right. Yeah, October. And it again allows us to start having conversations with banks and loans.
Okay, thank you.
And how we finance everything.
Thank you. Michelle?
If we were to bring this in-house, where would some of this off-site parking be?
For the vans. Yeah, well, initially we could park it at Public Works. Eventually Juan's working on a place at the Dillon that hopefully maybe could store the vans and either charge them or just store them. So we're looking at alternatives, but regardless, we can fit them up at Public Works like we do trams right now.
Judith, I see you, but I want to see if there's anybody who hasn't spoken yet. John, did you have any comments? Okay, I did have several questions, I guess, echoing the comments of several other counselors. I'm concerned about the trams. I guess I'd like to see us get our money back and be done with it. These look like lemons. I'm intrigued by the battery technology and all that, but in talking to a couple of the Mountain Metro people, they experimented with some battery electric buses, and I think they had 4 and they struggled to keep 2 running. And then they gave up about the same time the company went bankrupt, the vendor. So they have not had a good experience. And I think maybe we need the technology to mature some before we, or else we need to look very closely. So I'd like to first know what we're going to maybe get back from the trolley, so we know how much money we've got. We're coming into the end of the season, so I don't think we're urgently, we don't have to have an immediate solution. I think some of the comments have been made here about taking a close look as we get into budget season. I think that would be wise. And I would like to see the ridership study or ridership numbers for all the buses for the summer season. I look at the 36 bus, it's convenient for people, but I also often see it empty or pretty close to empty. So maybe there's some tuning there, or maybe, we need to think about that.
So Mayor Juan does have some numbers for 36.
Okay,
if
yeah,
wanna
if you'd
hear
like to share those with us. Yeah.
Yeah, so just for the month of July, we're down from last year. Last year we had 4,593, and this year we're down to 3,014 for the month of July.
With that first number, that was what, 4,993?
Correct.
Okay, against 3,014. Okay. Okay. Any other numbers or is that?
Oh, yeah. So if, I only got the first five numbers. April was a very low number, 26, because it was only one day, 26 for 23, and then for 2024, we had 62. May, we had 1,643. And for 24, we had 1,298. For the month of June of 2023, we had 3,938. And for 2024, we had 2,465.
So that's down as well.
That's down as well.
Okay, I mean, it seems to me like, as we provide the service over the years, we, the local people would be using it more and our motels and our businesses would be, encouraging tourists to use that. So I would expect those numbers to go up. I think this is just maybe something else that tells us we need to take a deeper dive and a closer look. So I would be in favor of looking at this in a work session and looking at several aspects of it. Also, the price on the Dillon work is it's a lot more expensive than I anticipated. It's $3 million for next year. So I guess we'd need to see not only where we might borrow the money, but how we would pay it back. It seems like that would take the parking enterprise fund quite a while to feed that back. So I think maybe a work sessions in the future. Sorry, other comments?
Could I say one
Sorry.
thing about,
Sure, please.
Mayor, about the shuttles? So even though we saw probably, like a 30% decline, we know Pike rides up. So, could be people are grabbing the bikes and maybe skipping the shuttle. We don't know if we're getting more carpooling in town. I mean, there's things that could be working because of the pricing in town of parking that they're doing that and parking at Hiawatha and walking in, not taking a shuttle. So we don't know all the reasons why there's a decline, but it never feels good when you see it drop in numbers, that's for sure.
Right. And I rode, it was a 3-bus down Colorado Springs a couple of times. And it was all local traffic, which is what you'd imagine. And it was, the bus was about a third full, which was okay. I mean, it was taking care of the people who needed it. And, but, the 36 is a little bit different situation. So,
yeah.
Anyway, Judith?
Thank you. As many of you probably know, I've been a big fan of having the 36 shuttle ride year round, but not only just year round on that route, but I'm a big fan of figuring out a way how we can have citywide, effective, cost-effective micromobility. I'm one of those people that I think what we should have on a question on the next community survey. Would you pay for mass transit in your neighborhood? Because I know I would. I ride the 36 shuttle and I can give you a plethora of reasons why ridership has been down. First of all, the 36 shuttle last year was a bus and it said free on it and it said 36 and it actually stopped. So what we got this year, the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, we got an unmarked bus that looked like one of those vans that you drop people off from the nursing home to the grocery store. It was unmarked. It had no number on it. It didn't say free. When complaints were made, an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper was posted on the door saying, here's the shuttle. And I can tell you from personal experience, and also we got a number of emails, the bus driver didn't stop. It's better now, but please do factor that in. Because I get steam coming out of my ears when we go, oh, ridership's down 30%. Oh, it's a failure. The bus route that I'm not interested in is the bus route that I don't ride, right? But that's not how I look at it. If we are going to be a proficient micromobility hub where we attract people who want to get out of their car and walk around here and ride their bike and they feel safe and there's effective, low cost or free transportation. It's not something that we should be scratching our heads about. We should be at the table working out how to figure out how to do it. And if we have to monetize it, great. I totally agree with Mayor Pro Tem Fortune, getting the URA involved and the Mobility and Parking Board. But I think this community is really jonesing for it. And I would like to see at least one community survey question that reflects the importance of mass transit to this residents in this town, and what would you be willing to pay for it? Because I bet you we could find some funding sources. Thank you.
Counselor Chandler, I just want to say I agree. The start of the season, it was tough. Not having it marked properly, all those things are not good if you're trying to promote a shuttle or anything, right? So it did start out tough with Mountain Metro getting that labeled properly. We're also we are going to be putting benches out and now it's at the end of the summer, but those are in progress right now to get benches at the bus station so that you can tell it's a bus stop, I should say, not station, but.
And my last comment was to segue into what Administrator Howell was talking about. We have already voted, I was in the minority, by the way, to continue the shuttle service just the way it is through 2025, right? So we voted that the shuttle for 2025 was going to be seasonal for the 36, if I'm not mistaken. So we're talking about 2026. So we have plenty of time with the Dillon parking lot, and who knows what's going to be happening with the Higginbotham Park master plan to finally get our act together and start knitting this together and make it happen. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
I'd like to get more information from Denise on timing, because to me, it seems essential that we have these vehicles in place when the Dillon is ready to open for business. Oh,
Excuse me.
and before Denise can get the Dillon ready, she needs to do some marketing and inquiries with lenders. And while she's doing that, she needs to look at the full cost, the Dillon plus the shuttles. So, and I understand that once we get the Lemon shuttles sold back, that, we may end up sitting on $175,000 or 165, and that's nice. That'll cover one of the two shuttles right there. But I'm afraid if we, decide we want to get input from everybody and their brother, which is groovy and everything, we need to have two vehicles, and we need them by the time the Dillon is opening, and the Dillon can't get started until Denise can do some loan inquiries. So let's see if we can get some specifics here so we don't end up shooting ourselves in the foot.
Okay, thank you. It seems like we're all agreed that we want more information. This is helpful. This tells us a few things.
No, I want Denise to answer my question.
Right now?
Yeah.
Denise?
If she knows,
well-
when do we need to get this decision by so that we don't mess things up?
So what would be helpful for us is I need to know if you're wanting us to start looking at purchasing shuttles, right? And if you're wanting that in 2026, we did vote to go ahead and keep the Route 36. However, we can change that because we haven't signed that contract for 2026. You made that vote, right? That says, let's keep it as is because making all the changes. But if you wanted to bring this in-house and say 2026 or 2025, we want that 147,000 that we go for shuttle 26. And we want you to take that money and figure out how to provide something in that area, then that gives us direction. Okay, we got to figure out what that entails and how much money we have or what do we have to borrow. I just need to know, what are you wanting in 25 and 26? At least a general idea so I can start talking to lenders. That's what I need. And the sooner I know that, the sooner I can start having conversations so we can get the Dillon continuing to move forward.
In that case, I would suggest that we give Denise authority to go ahead, and let's just assume it's going to be, let's assume we're going to get 150 grand back from the shuttles we have, and that we need another, whatever it is, 150 grand. Let's, use the Mercedes price for now, just to get a ballpark price, and see what she can do so that she's not sitting on her hands.
Right, understood.
It doesn't mean we have to buy anything or that we have to buy anything in particular. it's sort of like if you know that you're qualified to borrow $500,000 for your house, you don't have to buy $500,000. You can get less, but I just wanted to see if we could give her a dollar amount so she can move forward with those inquiries.
Okay, yeah, good point. I guess in looking at slide 9 of the presentation, capital improvement, that's fairly simple, but council, if we were to just ask Denise to work with those numbers, would you be comfortable with that, or do you want, Denise, do you know? Can you look at slide 9 of 11?
Mayor, that doesn't include Hiawatha, which we need 500,000 probably to finish Hiawatha, depending on how we move forward with that. So we have to add that 500,000 for the Hiawatha to really get both projects completed and moving forward. So if you say, hey, Denise, go out, because two of them could be lease purchases, but that does go against our debt, and we need to make sure that we have that conversation. And then, the other amount is for Hiawatha and for the Dillon.
Yeah. Okay. Judith?
Thank you. Well, I like to spend money that's in our bank, and we don't know if and when we're going to get any reimbursement from the lemons we purchased, and I don't want history to repeat itself. And I totally agree with Counselor Wolf that we need more information, but what I would like to see as part of this before we jump is when we anticipate that the Dillon is going to be functional, up and running. And then how does that segue into our October budget retreat, where we are going to be having these conversations about how we're going to move forward and fund it? So I don't see, I don't see the Dillon parking lot being a micro mobility hub in the next couple months. So I really feel like, usually I'm not the one that wants to hit the pause button, but we've learned a thing or two, I hope, from this situation. And I don't want to just jump the gun and get some vans and find out we've got another 2 lemons on our hand, or we didn't think about certain things. So any ballpark idea of when the Dillon would be up and running?
So you have asked us to try to have this done by May. I don't think we're going to have it by May, but we're trying to get at least 50 to 75, maybe 150 spots. That it's not going to be perfect, but at least parking spots by the June, July timeframe in 2025. So that's our goal, but we're going to have to move quick. We're working right now on a total timeline with planning and everything that happens, getting a contract in place, and then we're planning to bring that back to council with the entire timeline and everything that has to be done. But there are stages. For instance, the trail that goes down to Fields Park and the bridge, right? That's probably going to be the 3rd stage. So we're going to go through stages to get it done, but it won't be the perfect mobility hub that you want in 2025. 2026 will be hopefully the perfect mobility hub that your vision is.
And one more last comment. This is ripe for a community engagement meeting, because I think the community should weigh in on what they want, where they want it, what they're going to pay for, instead of us making those decisions. And so it sounds like we have some time. We can do our October budget retreat, and we can look at ways that we're going to fund it. We can move forward with the Hiawatha and the Dillon as future plans. It doesn't take a long time to get some of these vehicles if we were to need them rapidly. Hopefully we'll have our money back by then. And then I just don't want to leave the community out from, having a discussion on what they want their overall plan to look like. So
You
that's just
asked
me.
for that before, and we do have the community engagement in part of that process. So there will be a couple of meetings for community engagement for the Dillon. And then, of course, we bring it back to you for a final plan approval. So there will, and that's part of the contract that we're working on right now, is that community engagement along with everything else. I guess as we do this, I received direction that you want parking in that Dillon in 2025 as soon as possible. So we're trying to make that happen to give us more parking spots. And it may not be the perfect one, but at least it gives us parking to continue to move forward and gives us that additional parking that's needed.
Go ahead, Julie.
So if we need to borrow another $500,000 to get the Dillon going, If it's already going to be a challenge to get the Dillon ready by June, we were hoping May. I don't see what the problem is in giving Denise authority. We can give her authority to go ahead and see if she can borrow $750,000. We don't need that much. You know, we only need $500,000 for the Dillon and then whatever else for whatever we end up buying right away. But at least it gives her authority to get started and see if we're going to have a 2-month delay before she can do loan applications for the Dillon, that's going to be a very legitimate excuse about why the Dillon isn't open until next October of 25 or something. So I don't see the harm in giving her authority to, she's asking for authority to borrow money. It doesn't, I mean, just to get some numbers and to get some, she's not borrowing it. She's just going to tell us it's 5% for 20 years, or it's this, or it's that. It doesn't cost anything just to get a quote so that she can get started, because I don't want us to be the cause of a delay.
Okay.
Am I the only one that feels that
No,
way?
no,
I'm not against community engagement. We can buy one of each, whatever, but let's just let her get started with the borrowing request. That's all I'm suggesting.
okay. Well, council, I guess, following up on Councilor Wolf's idea there, would council be okay with giving Denise, the ability to go and check out the financing, or Denise and Becca together to figure out what kind of financing strategies would be feasible, what would work, how much we could borrow. If we can, use funds where we wouldn't have to borrow, that's good too. The slide on page 9 shows the capitalization is projected for the Dillon. Those are probably kind of rough numbers, but that's what we've got for now. It also shows a budget for the trams and shuttles. For planning purposes, that seems to me like that would be okay at this point in the game. Plus, we'd have to add in the needs for Hiawatha Gardens to finish that off. Would council, would that in general be okay with council? Or, I mean, that gives Denise fairly broad authority, and that way she can do her homework. And when we do our budget meeting in October, I think it's October the 12th, we would have hopefully as much good data as possible.
I have one just clarification
Okay.
question. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Denise proceeding, but are we looking at funding to complete the Dillon project and shuttles? Or is that, we're needing funding for both? I'm hearing you say. So I just want to make sure I understand what we're trying, what kind of information we're going to get back from you.
Yeah, I would like to do a comprehensive loan or at least a line of credit as needed, because if we get enough money in the reserves, we can go ahead and not borrow, right? So if we can get a good line of credit that allows us to manage accordingly, that's what we would look for.
Okay, is council okay with that? So we would be giving Denise fairly broad discretion and
Well,
the
if we're
thought-
just, are we just giving her discretion to get information and give it back to us?
right, yeah,
She's just, I mean, you can have anybody can make the phone call. Hi, we'd like to borrow some money. We're going to be spending about X amount on vehicles on a lease purchase. And here's how our financials look. How much do you think you'd be willing to loan us? Like
Right.
that.
right,
We're not authorizing her to borrow $1 million.
right. This is basically just a reconnaissance or research project, and we'll discuss the budget on the 12th of October in that all-day session. So was there a comment over here? Nancy?
Yeah, I think I'm supportive, but I'm not super clear on exactly what we're asking Denise to do. Are we asking her to budget for 3,250,000 for 2025 and then go after whatever it is, the line of credit or whatever, to finish the Dillon, or to get $3 million more into fixing the Dillon and 250,000 to purchase trams? Is that what we're looking for?
This is the direction I believe I heard. So let me know. The Dillon has to be completed. We purchased it. We need to move on it, right? So we will look and see what we can do to get that done and what type of loans we can get to manage that with the revenue that we have and the anticipated revenue. We'll probably have to use, of course, the property as collateral, which is fine. Then I will go ahead and look at borrowing money or at least a lease purchase for the trams. We'll put all of that in the budget, and then you will approve which portion you want to move with, if you want to do all of it or if you want to only do this. And we'll put the highest amount in the trams of what we think it would be. I'm going to personally say, I recommend that we don't use electric because we saw what happened here. Metro has tried it. It hasn't worked. Let's go with the thing that we know is going to work right now. And then in the future, maybe bring that in. I mean, the electric vehicles, they thought that a bunch were going to sell and they didn't sell because I think cities are right now seeing some issues. And with our terrain, there's even more issues, it feels like. So that's how I see we'll move forward, and then we'll bring that to the October. We'll assume right now that you want to bring this in-house. That will be an assumption that we make.
Right.
And then at the budget hearing, or at the budget retreat, if you say no, because you see what that means financially as we pull all the numbers together, then we'll get direction and change the budget accordingly.
And my final comment for the moment is that I remain a little bit nervous about doing with bus 36 in the event it doesn't work again. I have no problem with coming in and looking at alternatives for routes for bus 36. But sometimes redundancy is good. And I think we need to look at if just get some more information on that to make sure it's either makes sense or doesn't make sense to continue or not continue Route 36 until we and I'm also a big supporter of year round for our residents for that. So anyway, I'm just a bit nervous about that. Thanks.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Roy.
So I think one thing we got to keep in mind is that these trams were cheap, and the idea is doing a pilot, getting the cheapest thing we can to test them out. You know, the vans have been around for a long time, and they are tested and tried, and they last. I mean, we can definitely get more information from other cities, but they really are not the same at all. So I think from the fact that they'll be usable for a longer period of time and not break on us it will happen compared to the trams. The trams were a test. They were kind of glorified golf carts. They just did not work for us. So I think we just have to keep in mind it's not the same thing. We're not asking for the same thing. These are better quality. I think Juan and I need to know for sure our expectations here, and I'm going to spell them out so you can tell me if I'm on track. We need to research these vans some more, get some more information. We need to bring it to the MAPS board so they can give their input. We need to bring it to council in a work session to discuss the vans. And then from there, we can move on and possibly determine when we're going to purchase them. Is that kind of the sequence that I heard, or no?
If I could just add, could you get information on a gas trolley?
Yes.
They're being used a lot in communities. I know Breckenridge has two. I don't know what the elevation of Breckenridge is, but they're very popular and they're vintage looking. I just would like to have that as part of the discussion.
You bet.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, Denise, did you have comments?
Mayor, I didn't hear that for our work session after all this conversation. I heard that would be part of the budget discussion at the budget time. Is that correct?
That was my understanding.
I thought we were going to sometime before the budget day, talk about get the details about the vehicles that we're asking for more data on. I guess we could squeeze that into budget day, but that's already a really long
Yeah,
day.
yeah, actually, I was thinking, we had talked about a work session, and I think it was kind of morphing into that budget day. Let's go around the table here and see what council's preference is. Do you want a separate work session before the budget, or do you want to try and tackle this during the budget day, realizing there might be other things? Michelle?
Work session.
Judith?
I'd like a separate work session before budget day.
Okay, Nancy?
Yeah, work session's fine. I would just suggest that rather than bring us, a laundry list of specific vans, that we just give you the requirements that we need, and then you find a van that meets that. So ADA compliant, probably at this point, gas, how many seats it has, things like that, as opposed to it's just kind of flipping how we look at stuff, or how I think we should be coming up maybe with the requirements, not with the specific vans or whatever we in.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Shada? Okay, Judith, Natalie? Okay, no, okay. So I guess we'll try to do a work session. Yeah, Denise?
Mayor, we can't make a work session if you want maps and everybody's input before the budget season. So if you want us to take this to maps and come back, we cannot make a work session before the October budget meeting. So we're gonna have to do something regarding that. Maybe it's after that, but we can't make it with maps and everything that is happening.
Okay. Yeah. So suppose we were to do this at a work session and invite the MAPS board to come to a council work session.
So the only one you have is September 10th, and you already have Mountain Metro, you have a natural medicine ordinance discussion and URA update for LaFun. So that's our last work session before the budget work session.
Well, I don't think we actually have anything scheduled for September the 24th.
Well, I can't make that number for the budget by then. I mean, I have to have the budget booked to you a week before. So you are really, I guess I'm asking, please let this at least have a preliminary discussion during the budget discussion, because we don't have time to pull everything together and make changes accordingly, and invite everybody to the table as you
I'm
have
okay
requested.
with that. I mean, if we're just having preliminary discussions, I mean, I don't see any reason why we can't have the work session after the budget retreat.
Okay, would that be agreeable to council to we have to do the work session on this after we do the budget, but
So,
we're okay.
so we could bring it to maps. And then at least get their recommendation or not, and following Councilwoman's Fortune's recommendation, we just say these are all the items we need on a van. The type of van doesn't matter too much, the brand, just here is what we need. And if MAPS approves that, then we could do it at the budget presentation, and it shouldn't take as long because we'll have it all narrowed down.
If that's agreeable with council, then we'll just go ahead with the budget. And then presumably we'll have a work session at some later time to go over the transportation stuff in more detail.
Mayor, I have a question on the
Sure.
process.
Go ahead.
So when we're at the budget meeting in October, if we haven't decided yet, or if we've decided to not decide what to buy, if anything, until after the budget, then we won't be able to budget for it?
No, we can, I think December 15th is the hard date.
Because
that
what we
have to
decide
meet
to
the budget.
buy depends, are we talking $1 million or $500,000 or what?
But you can put a certain amount in the budget, right? And then we do mid-year budget
To
amendments
hold it.
to hold it, right?
Okay.
So you have the flexibility to change accordingly, but it allows us to put numbers in so we know what the reserves will be, what we're spending, and it gives you, just like everything, it's a plan, and budgets change accordingly. So we may put a certain amount in, and then you say, we want to go here, and I'll say, great, that means we have to increase or decrease, and it will change our reserves.
Thank you.
Okay, we good with that? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask if you want to take a break now. So, let's take a break. Let's be back about 7:30, something like that. go ahead and resume the meeting, please? Okay, thank you. Our next item, we have Police Chief Bill Otto here to talk about speed cameras. And this is for informational purposes. Chief?
Good evening. I spoke with Denise about a month and a half ago, and she said the council was interested in learning more about speed cameras. I personally didn't have any knowledge. I've never worked with them before. We did some research into them. Going to give you some information, things we've learned. We have a couple gentlemen sitting to my left who actually is a vendor for one of the a couple cities. They're working with a few more coming up. They'll be able to answer some of your questions on the technical stuff. I think the main thing to remember though is we're just getting started into this. We're going to give you some advantages and what our goals are. Did some research, found 4 or 5 cities, at least in Colorado Springs, or municipalities that are using this already. They're using everything from the LiDAR handheld cameras to the mobile speed cameras, pole cameras, all types of things. I don't know if anybody remembers when Morrison went live with their program up by Red Rocks. They started out their program and went up there and saw Chief Finelli. Asked him about it. He showed me the operation, how he learned it. He actually recommended that I talk with the gentleman here to my left, and this is Russell Senior Sarpy and his son, Russell Junior Sarpy. So Russell will work. Chief Finelli was fantastic. I must say, I didn't, like I said, I really didn't understand how this all worked. He walked me through it. He showed me how the cameras take a photograph, what they're looking for. He explained the process, and the main thing that really got me confused was what happens after there's a picture taken of a car and its license plate. How do we work with this? He explained to me the ins and outs of it. And again, Russell Senior here will explain a little bit more on how that works, but we're pretty much hands off once we set these things up. When I say hands off, I mean, we don't put it somewhere and totally ignore it. But it takes care of itself. He also gave me some information on the LiDAR, which is one of the old handheld, or looks like one of the old handheld radars that you actually point at a vehicle and it captures the speed. There's a neat program these gentlemen have that I think we should take advantage of if you decide to move forward with this. I could tell you, if you go down to that third point there, the SB 23-200, Senate Bill 23-200, read that, I believe was included in your packet. This gives us the permission from the state to be able to do this. We have also Nick here from Jeff Parker, his office. He's going to get into a little bit more of this stuff with you as well. But if we get somebody, I'm going to try to keep this in order here. If somebody is captured on a speed camera going 10 miles per hour or over, it's going to be a $40 fine. If it's a school zone, it's the only one that can automatically double to an $80 fine. There are no points assessed against your license. There's nothing reported to the insurance companies, the Department of Revenue, nothing like that. We give the opportunity for people who violate this, the option to pay the $40 and be done with it. If they decide to contest it, then we set a hearing, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. On the very last bullet there, research and contacted companies that provide the same service. I did, and I went strongly off Chief Finelli's recommendation of Russell and his son's company. I want to make sure I say this right. Emergent Enforcement Solutions. They're in Louisiana. I did contact another company called Gentopec Gentapic that Roy, you sent me the information on. I can tell you I was not impressed at all with them. The gentleman I spoke to, nice enough guy, he told me that they don't sell their equipment, that it's leased per month, and then the minimum cost would be $5,000 per month. That's minimum. And I had him send me some information. It looks kind of like the same stuff we're looking at here from these guys. But it didn't have that I didn't have a good feeling. I heard what we were talking about, or you guys were discussing earlier about the personal touch and the feelings and stuff. I didn't get that with these guys at all. These guys I did. Advantages: speed control equals safety. Once we get a mobile speed camera up and running, there's minimal maintenance. There is some stuff we have to do as far as making sure the battery, the backup generator, we have access to one of those. It is all solar powered, but if we run into some days, which we do here, where we don't have a whole lot of sunlight, the battery will have to kick in. We'll have to go out and charge it up. We'll be trained how to do that. When I say we, the police department will. From what I understand, we would not need an additional FTE to run the program. It can be done pretty much in conjunction with finance as far as handling the payments, and the police department can handle the rest. Speed camera is a force multiplier that will assist officers in traffic enforcement and allow them to handle other LEO duties. To the point on that, we're getting a couple things done at once. We can have officers on the one side of town where we don't have a camera. If we want to do some radar over there, we can use our regular radar guns over there. We've got the mobile speed camera positioned in one place, doing the same exact thing, but doing it much quicker. Frees up our officers to take more calls for service, to do a little more officer initiated activity. I look at it as a force multiplier. As far as the appeals go, the appeals on the tickets, and this is actually a civil violation. A civil action, Nick, I believe is what it's called. Civil action. It's not a criminal action. The police chief, and I got this from Chief Vanilli up in Morrison, he handles the appeals and he gives a final ruling on it. So if someone is sent a violation, a civil violation, that they got a ticket from the speed camera and they want to contest it, they will set a date and the chief will hear the appeal. And the appeal process, from what I understand now, the chief looks at it, says, okay, does this plate match this car? Was this plate stolen maybe from another car? If all that checks out, and I think I forgot to mention this earlier, the ticket or the violation actually goes to the registered owner of the vehicle. It doesn't matter who is driving it. I think I left that out. So if you lend somebody your car and it gets a ticket from the speed camera, the violation will be sent to the registered owner, and the registered owner can take that up with whoever's using the car at the time, but they're going to be the one responsible. The camera takes a picture of the car and the license plate. There's not a picture of the person driving the car. And that's why I believe, the chief up in Morrison is able to handle these appeals. There's no disputing whether or not this car with this license plate, as long as they match, was in violation. And he'll issue a ruling right then. Disadvantages: anticipate there could be pushback from the community. I think everybody probably knows exactly what I'm thinking when I look at this. People that end up getting a violation are going to assume it is just for the revenue, just for the money. Manitou's trying to make money off this. Misconstrued perception that the city is doing this solely to make money, and that's absolutely not correct. It's for public safety. If we can control speed in areas that we get a lot of complaints on with the speed cameras and the LiDAR handguns, we're accomplishing our mission. I mean, as a police chief, we're doing our job. The money doesn't mean anything to me. The cost for the speed cameras, $31,000 each. Interestingly, when I got a hold of Russell here, told him who I was, what I wanted, what I thought we wanted here in Manitou, and asked him to give me a quick breakdown of it. And I said, well, Russell, off the top of my head, I don't have much experience on this, but I'm looking at maybe 2 of them, one for each side of town. He said, no, Chief, you don't want 2 of them. He says, you want to start out with 1. I said, okay, why? He explained to me what happened in Morrison when they got their cameras up and running. They picked up 14,000 violations in a 2-week period. There's no way they could keep up with it. When I mean keep up with it, on the processing of the violation tickets themselves, getting them sent out, having them approved, having them take care of the violations, the people who got these tickets, they were just overwhelmed. They couldn't do it. There's no way. So he said, you want to start out with 1. And then if it's working for you, you want to do more, then you start looking at a second one. These guys came out a little bit early today, about 3 o'clock. I drove them around Manitou, showed them where we're having some issues with speeding. And they brought up the LiDAR, the gun, the radar gun. I wasn't initially impressed with it at all until they explained to me how it worked. And I think it's going to be a fantastic tool as far as monitoring traffic. Well, the best part of it is free with these guys too. But there's so many different places we can use this. An officer could be not hidden, but could be standing on a corner, monitoring traffic with this radar gun, takes a picture of the car that is speeding, and the officer has no contact with this person, and it's sent off to Russell here, and their company puts together a spreadsheet, sends it back to us, we approve it, we get it back to them, and we get some violations mailed out and start accepting payments. So I think, and I'll have to do some more research, we may be able to start out with just the LiDAR, the handheld, to see how it works. And I spoke with these gentlemen today about that. That may not be a bad idea. I mean, we're going to have to learn if we go with this program. If you go with this program, we're going to have to learn how this works. I mean, pushing a button, capturing a picture is nothing, right? It's going to be the other side of it, the process, the administration of it, the process of mailing things out. We get people from all over the country coming to Manitou Springs during the summertime, making sure we get these violations sent out to them, that we're getting them back. And there's time frames that we can get into. You get 30 days for in-state that they have to respond. Out of state is 45 days. We can get into that a little bit more. Ultimate goal, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious: safety for all drivers, pedestrians, bikers. Our goal here is to gain compliance without personal law enforcement intervention. What I mean by that is, if people know that the Manitou Springs they take their speeding and their road safety serious, I think we can cut down on our in-person enforcement of the speed limits drastically. I mean, once it becomes known that we do have cameras, we are monitoring the speed, people are going to want to stop. Now, at first, I don't think so. I think it's going to be something everybody's going to have to get used to. Some people that have never been here before aren't going to have any idea. I mean, folks, I could look outside my office window and I watch people flying up and down the road every day. And there's just so many cops out there that can do something about it. These speed cameras can help us monitor that much better. We can allow the mobile speed trailer to be deployed to areas where speeding has increased and areas with a high number of speeding complaints. I mean, up on Crystal Park area, we get a lot of calls up there, El Paso, Beckers. We can move these speed trailer around. We can have it in one place for a week, and if it's doing good there, we can leave it there for a little while. We could take the handgun, I'm sorry, not the handgun, the radar gun, and we can go to another part of town and we can start working the speed enforcement over there. I've already, the subject matter experts that I've got here, we got Emergency Enforcement Solutions, Russell Sarpy Senior and Junior. And that's wrong. The next one, it's going to be Nick from Jeff Parker's office. They're going to be able to answer some of the questions because we will have to have an ordinance adopted. A lot of work's going to have to go in if we're serious about doing this. These guys can give you some answers to some of the questions I know you have. We just got lucky today that they're here. I don't know if I mentioned that either. They're going to be in Hudson tomorrow night doing the same thing that they had scheduled out when we talked. Russell told me that, hey, we're going to be in Hudson. We can come a day earlier and stop and help you out with your stuff. So we got really lucky. So I invited them and here they are. So we're going to open it up for any questions you guys may have, and we'll do our best to answer.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Shada, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was noticing from some studies that Roy had been using with, what are those little black devices called there, Roy? Black cats. Okay. And these are fairly unobtrusive little black boxes that if you cut a loaf of bread in half, you could maybe stick that loaf in that box, right? Okay. And from August 22nd last year to September 13 on Crystal Park Road, the device measured 6,500 vehicles. 45% were deserving of a ticket according to that device. So that's quite a number of people. Several things, and just Chief, tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I was reading the law and the packet, and I've been kind of monitoring kind of Morrison's program as well. Basically, that meant that in that 3-week period, okay, there were 3,000 violations just in that strip of road. Okay. Just what we were measuring on Crystal Park Road. As I understand it, that, and maybe Nick can answer my question. It seems like state law is, we're not allowed to trigger this $40 ticket until you exceed 25 miles an hour over the speed limit. Is that correct?
I can answer that.
I think it's
10
yeah.
miles per hour.
Oh, okay. All right. So, so the other thing that it seems like to me that is a huge educational thing is state law does allow you to send a warning to anybody who is speeding over it. And it seems like to me, a warning without a ticket is a great kind of educational opportunity for us to kind of inform people that, you know what, you're kind of a little kind of heavy on the pedal there. And so I think that's a really important portion of the law too, and which is an educational element of this thing.
Absolutely.
Which doesn't necessarily mean it triggers the civil $40 ticket. And I believe that's $40 that we're allowed to ticket with a surcharge. And I think the state law talks about a surcharge, and I don't think it's specific about what that is. Maybe Nick could interact with us on that.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. Nick Hartman, I work with Jeff at Hoffman Parker. So yeah, as I understand the surcharge and the fees.
Nick, could you get about 3 inches from the microphone,
Sorry.
please? Yeah, that's
As I understand the surcharge and the fees, it needs to cover something, right? It needs to cover the cost of mailing, the cost of, having a vendor, something like that, on top of the ticket itself, which would be the $40.
Right. So I guess what I wanted to bring up is that, and I agree with Chief Otto that this shouldn't be a revenue generating thing. This should be an educational and a safety program. And I'm proposing that if we did do the speed trailer, that essentially the $40 revenue that we gain from it, that we basically intentionally put that in a fund to do traffic calming, okay, and pedestrian safety, so that basically that's just not falling in the general fund for Denise's, vacation to Tahiti. I know. So anyway,
Going to my.
or Otto's over there. He'll carry the bags. But anyway, so my point is, I think if we're intentional about kind of using this in some way, okay, I think we can marshal this as, like you said, a force multiplier. It seems like to me, it's got a really strong educational component, okay, to it as well, because it seems like to me, we can send stuff out if you're just a few miles over it, according to the statute, okay? I think some people ask about the privacy issue, which with regard to, photographing people's vehicles. And I believe the law has got very specific things about the retention in terms of how long this information is retained by the governmental authority or by the vendor, which I think is an important thing, because I think people are kind of somewhat, touchy about, people taking pictures of things and then how long things are sitting around and who has access to that kind of information. So the law does talk about that specifically as well. So I just wanted to go over those numbers. The other thing I thought that was really interesting in my research, and maybe Bill, you can highlight us, or the vendor in Morrison, what they experienced was other than the law requires apparently in the first 30 days that you only do warnings, okay? And that you have to have a pretty strong educational program in place for the first 30 days to let your community know that this is about ready to roll out. And the state law specifies how that's supposed to be done, which I think is a really good component. What they saw was a 40% reduction in speeding, okay, within 2 weeks. And I think that's pretty remarkable.
Yes.
That you can see that big of a behavioral change with this kind of a program. So that's just my research and comments. Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Yes, thank you. Nancy?
Yeah, over the years, we've gotten so many complaints about speeding that I was very intrigued by this proposal. I too remain confused about the tickets, not citations. Thank you. How are they printed out from the machine, or do they have to go through a computer? How are they printed out? And then, we physically mail them, or are they mailed automatically? I mean, how is all that done?
Great question. Thank you guys for having me here. I'm Russell Sarpy. I'm the owner of Emergent Enforcement Solutions. We've been operating for about 6 years in Louisiana, and we're now in Colorado, Maryland, and Louisiana. So we're a software company that provides a service that has integrated with the hardware, which is the camera system, and our back office is connected to a mail center and a processing center. So we have triggers built into our software that once the images or the videos are captured from in the field, it's uploaded to a docking station and then sent to our server via secure connection. Once it's at our server, we have human beings that physically process and look at the vehicle description with the license plate number, and we submit those to the DMV per state that the tag is registered to. Once that registration is returned back to us, we then process the citation. We actually take it into a form of a citation template that you guys have pre-approved through the system. Once that registration is applied to the citation, we accumulate a certain number of those in a day's period. They're then sent over to the police department, where the police department designates personnel to actually review each one of the citations. They approve those citations. At midnight every day in which citations are approved, it triggers a PDF being sent to our mail center. That is the automated method in which we do. And then the next day it's mailed out. So that's the process through the software.
Okay, so hence the administration of it on our side is significantly reduced. However, obviously that comes with a cost. which, how much is the cost of that? So that, because it said 31,000 for the trailer. And then you're talking, Chief, about perhaps just starting out just using the LiDAR gun as opposed to having the trailer. And I don't know how much that would cost, but I kind of like the concept of a kind of phased in approach. But how much is the cost for that, for your service of all the administration?
Yes, ma'am. So something was indicated earlier, which was not correct in regards to the Colorado state law. Recently, I think last June, Colorado passed a law in which that vendors could no longer charge a processing fee per citation where the vendor was making a profit off of each citations issued.
True.
So we came up strategically through working with Glenwood Springs, Hudson PD and Morrison PD, a strategic contract that allows for the processing fees to be assessed by an hourly rate. So we currently charge an hourly rate that is equal to a $14 processing fee per ticket because we're in charge of the rate in which tickets get processed, right? So our current rate is equal to $14 processing fee per citations issued.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
And up for potential conflict.
No, man, we charge an hourly rate based on the services that we provide, which encompasses equipment, software, consulting, storage fees.
Okay. So bottom line, we won't know what that rate will be until we start needing citations.
No, man, we know what the rate would be.
Well, you know, the $14 per citation, but we don't know how many citations we're going to generate.
That is correct.
So it's difficult to
That is
predict
correct.
what that cost will be.
That is correct.
It could be many, many thousands of dollars, however, but and the $40 or I believe it's also in a construction zone that you can charge twice as much. There's 2 or 3 school zone and construction. Anyway, neither here nor there. So did you Chief, have you put this in the budget yet? And if so, or your budget request is yet?
No, not yet. This is the first time.
So you're
I'm
just
talking
looking for
about
us
this.
to
Yes,
say,
just a little direction.
we'd like for you to put in the budget. Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to add something that I think might be a little helpful. It is really, and Chief will attest to this. We've talked on the phone, but it's not a complex system, but there is moving parts that are kind of Greek to everybody, right? So one of the things that we do that's real critical as a company for the vendor is everything about the success of the system to being able to have public safety longevity with the system is based on percent paid municipalities had in dealing with certain vendors. So what we try to accomplish with you guys is one, start slow and start small, right? Which is why we try to educate with the handheld device because it doesn't cost you anything. It's a minimum expense to get kicked off where the administration can get trained on how to actually service the system. Number 2 is we invoice net 30. So in other words, if we start September 1 with enforcement and we issue X fines for September, you're billed at the end of September, which is net 30. So that bill is not due technically until 60 days after the first citation was issued. So you have 60 days of collections of citations before the first bill is due. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Another question is, and I was unclear from the state bill on this, given that Manitou Avenue is a state road, would we be able to, is there any restriction? I guess maybe that's a legal question on us setting up this system for our city.
Yeah, so the only restriction, so you'd have to talk to CDOT about it. You have to talk to CDOT about it either way. So there's no way out of that. You can't put one on the federal interstate highway
Right.
system, so you should be able to put it on 24 because that's just a state highway.
Okay. And then obviously, although I do see bikes going faster than 20 miles an hour on Crystal Park Road. In fact, perhaps I've even ridden faster than 20 miles. Anyway, but you can't do anything about bicycles because there's no license plate, correct?
That's correct. yeah.
Okay. So how about can you do things other than speeding, such as if that cars within, is driving in the bike lane or anything, can you do citations for that?
I know they have traffic control device violations. They're able to pick up what Colorado Springs is doing now. As far as following too closely, and
Actually, it's funny that you asked. Following too closely is something that the handheld LiDAR gun that Custom Signals manufactures is capable of detecting that. We don't currently do it because we've never had a customer that to ask for that, but the LiDAR handheld gun currently does that. Now, we are a vendor, software vendor that can process any type of traffic violation. I was talking to the chief earlier in regards to the handheld device. As long as you have an ordinance that has the legalness embedded
Right.
in the ordinance that is allowed to prosecute images or videos based on a violation it captured, our software is a full inclusive software that can process any type of traffic violation. So you may need a certain type of camera that can monitor a parking lane or a bicycle lane that you're having problems with, that it can recognize through AI that, this person is in a bicycle lane. That image can be sent to us and then we can process that image.
Which then would be another legal question. Would we be allowed to issue citations for anything other than speeding?
So the bill outlines what you can issue citations for. It's local speeding, violations of traffic restrictions imposed by signals or signs, and a system used to detect violations of bus lanes or bicycle lane restrictions like he was talking about. On top of that, you can't just have a system, you have to back everything, saying like, so if you have a bus lane, you'd have to have a sign saying we're looking for bus lane violations, and you'd have to back that with, illustrations that you should have that. You can't just kind of deploy these and use them for whatever you want. It would have to be specific to what you're trying to solve.
Okay. And I very much appreciated John Shada's comment about fencing off the funding, because I was going to suggest that you work very closely again with Public Works on the traffic calming. So funding that is coming up with using this as a way to fund that, I think is great. But that partnership between the police and Public Works is important for the traffic calming stuff. So I'm pretty much, as I said, very intrigued by this because speeding is such an issue in certain specific roads. And that looked like to be about the only flexibility you had in writing the ordinance, is basically what roads we want to use it on. If it's all roads or just specific roads. I saw in I think it was the Morrison one, they just had specific roads that they were going to use it on, which is the concept as well. Because I do very much worry about the impact, as you stated in your slides, the impact on residents and tourists thinking that we're just coming up with a way to make more money, which I do not want that to be the truth or the perception. So thank you.
And then one additional, so the state law is the state law. So in terms of having flexibility about writing an ordinance, you're kind of gonna be following the state law either way, and how much you choose to incorporate into the ordinance is kind of up to you. And I can't really speak to, what was contemplated while these were drafting. I can just talk to what they look like. Morrison's ordinance is pretty short. It's like here are the zones, we're gonna ticket you. That's it. Hudson's, which are hearing tomorrow, and actually I'll be in Hudson tomorrow as well. So you guys can.
Yeah, exactly.
There's pretty robust. And they talk a lot about, how you appeal and things like that. Again, I don't know why that was done, but there is some movement for you guys. And also I misspoke, Counselor, it's $40 inclusive of the fees, not exclusive of the fees. So I apologize for that. So if there's like a $14 fee or whatever, the fine for the driver is $40. $40 is $40. You can't go over that no matter what your fees are. Yeah, so
Wait, the
apologize for misspeaking.
statute says plus a surcharge.
So it's
Yeah, are they
Yeah.
not referring to like a convenience fee with the credit card where the credit card vendor is charging $3.50 to process the credit card fee? And then I know in Louisiana, I can't speak for Colorado, as long as you're giving multiple methods of payment to the violator, then you can assess a convenience fee to the violator so that that fee is not coming out of the fine for the municipality. And
Yeah, and Counselor, if you want to, again, sorry, I misspoke at first. It's 4B1 on page 10 of Senate Bill 23-200. I can. Maybe. Yeah, it should be in your packet, should be in your packet as well, yeah. Oh, it's all included in a single title, which is why I'm still scrolling. 42-4-110.5. 42-4-110.5. And it's all in there.
Thank you. Michelle?
Nick, I know that House Bill 24-1378 passed, and that went into effect August 1st regarding consumer protection and event ticket sales. I know that like the Pikes Peak Roadrunners, Pikes Peak Marathon and all that, they are having to adjust. So when you register for a race, that fee is included into the race. So let's say the race is $100, fees are $10. They have to advertise that race is $110. So if we took this on and the fee is $14, we say the ticket is $40, which includes the fee of 14.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
again, sorry again for misspeaking before.
Thank you, Judith.
Thank you. I have some real softball speed camera 101 questions here. So I'm a little confused. The $31,000 price tag is to purchase the mobile device. We didn't really talk about how much a LiDAR is, but I'm assuming that if we had a handheld camera, someone would be having to hold on to it, and that would be a police officer, and we would have a police officer in service, for that. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
A handheld device? Okay.
Russell told me earlier today when we were giving him a tour of Manitou that to purchase one that is 7,000.
yes,
Just the LiDAR itself. If we did this, they would provide that to us for free.
How much is the LiDAR? Do you have a cost on
yeah,
that?
it's 7,000.
7,000 to purchase that?
Yes, ma'am.
So my first question is, if we go with a $31,000 mobile device and we don't have to have a staff person staffing, and I'm still trying to get a sense in my mind of where we will need staffing from, because we're going to need some, probably in the finance department and here and there, but what's the lifespan of the piece of equipment? What's the maintenance cost over time? And I'm sure no one's ever run over one. I'm
No,
So-
I would get insurance on it for sure.
but what's a typical, do you know what a typical lifespan is? One, okay.
No,
And-
and they're,
As the software vendor, do we also purchase the device from you so that
No,
those
ma'am.
are separate? So the $31,000 is separate from the contract we have. I just want to make sure, because I'm just
yes, ma'am. No,
I'm
that's great,
confused.
great questions.
And so, with regards to, referencing the two citation examples you had in here, one from Morrison, Colorado, and I think one was from Louisiana. I bring this up just, don't get a ticket in Louisiana is kind of what I learned. Man, that was $180 for 9 miles over the speed line. The reason I have brought this up is on the Morrison ticket, it says, if you have a question about the citation, please call this number. The phone is manned 24/7. And on the Louisiana citation, it looks like it automatically sets a court date, right? Your court date is on this day. So within the software programs, can we customize it to what our department wants? Because don't imagine we'd want to automatically set a court date.
ma'am, no.
But so that's, okay, so we would be able to set
I'm
that
glad you
period.
picked up on that, right? So that is the unique benefit of our company, and that's where we specialize in. If you would have a conversation with Chief Bill Vanelli, when we went live in Morrison after their 30-day warning period, it was kind of a little bit of chaos. They had just lost their city manager. Somebody was acting city manager. They didn't really understand the back office processes, which is why I strongly urge any municipality to start slow with photo speed enforcement to get acclimated to the processes in the back office so that things run smoothly down the wrong road, so there is longevity. And so we changed the citation language on their citation at least 15 times in the first 30 days because they were learning new stuff. They realized their ordinance needed to be amended for certain things. It was just chaotic, and we were there to help them do that, right? To gather what was needed, change language on the citations. They started taking our original recommendations of how to actually set up the due process, and it's just all running smoothly now.
So that $14 fee you mentioned includes the software, but it also includes some support, obviously.
Oh, yes,
to make-
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So who would handle the appeals? If there were appeals, would that be the police department? And if so, what would that look like? Just ballpark for a
Yeah.
staff?
From my understanding, and I don't, this is more of a legal question that the attorney can have, but the appeal process, you're either saying you're not going to pay it or you're going to pay it, right? If you elect not to pay it, most of the municipalities here in Colorado are turning it over to a debt collection company.
And that was my next question, because I'm trying to look at how much this is actually really going to cost, because
Yes.
would it be the finance department that would handle collections, or how would we manage that?
Just a minute.
But I'm just
Judith has the
asking
floor.
if how that would be managed if we had to send a citation. to
Yeah,
the
so
collector.
our software is all incumbent of that process. That I just want to make sure that you understand that. So we're able to track paid citations, unpaid citations by X number of days past the due date that can be integrated with the debt collection company of your choice. So in other words, when you elect to turn these X number over to the debt collection company, it's a simple process of selecting by date of the violations, total numbers, and then they're routed over to the debt collection company.
Yeah, so we would contract with a debt collection, and then what we would do is just probably finance would manage how much we're getting in. We'd get those monthly reports just like we do with EMS right now and see what we're getting in, and then how we hold them accountable. Parking debt collection company was working well. Right now it's got kind of taken a dip, so we're getting ready to go out for an RFP for a new debt collection for parking, and so we could add it to that.
Last question. Where was I going with this? I looked at your sample ordinance. And I'm all for safety, and I'm not in this either to make a lot of money. And I also really support Counselor Shado's brilliant idea that it be in a particular line item and used for those stated purposes. But so if you I lost my train of thought for a second. Where was I going with
I think
this?
you were going somewhere.
The sample ordinance. I was reading it and it has a line in there that the only way that we can be safe is if we change behavior, right? I mean, in order to create safety, we have to change behavior of people that are speeding, so they're not speeding. And I'm just wondering if we are a tourist community. And one of the suggestions in the draft ordinance is, if this is their first citation, you usually let them go with a warning. And I'm just wondering, in tourist communities, I mean, I live on Becker's Lane and we have these tour buses that just barrel up our streets, and they may never come back again. I'm just wondering if this kind of device really, in tourist communities, really results in modified behavior that reduces speeding.
Well, if that's a question directed to
Right.
me, I can honestly tell you, even in Morrison, which is a unique animal, even the company Traffic Logic, that's a global provider of this type of hardware, have never seen a municipality in that short a time period produce that many citations. Never have. And the reduction there is tremendous And you have to understand that Morrison is a through traffic. It is a municipality, population 400, where people are hearing about this that are actually coming to events there, and the speed has reduced. There's still same number of tourist people that are coming there, you know, for participating with the attractions that are there. That has not reduced. And but there is a large reduction in the number of people that are speeding every day. Right now, currently, as of looking at it this morning, we were averaging 800 to 900 tickets a day, and it's approximately 350 tickets a day that we're doing in Morrison. So it's really above 50% reduction. And that's really incredible because it's a location that people are coming in from out of state and out of town. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's not unlike our community is what I hear you saying. Okay, well, that gives me a little bit more confidence.
Oh, yeah.
I support us, starting with one unit. I'd love to see us take a stab at that and see what happens in our town and gather some data.
Yeah, I'll go back to the first, y'all did some type of speed study here and you showed X number of speeders. More than likely in a city, this area, depending on where you put that at, you're going to get a 75 to 85% reduction in speeders. Your people that live here and that commute to this town daily, they're going to complain about it. And the chief knows I've been telling him all the pitfalls, all of the problems that come with such system. 90% of the problems are going to be increased citations mean increased complaints. There's no way around it. Where the police officers take the complaints on the side of the road with the motorists, the complaints now come in over the phone call, and they're a lot more in number than a traditional traffic stop. So you have to know that, which is why I say start small, start slow, get your administration understanding the processes, then you can decide to scale. The handheld device in and of itself, as long as you have the manpower to support that. And I'm not suggesting an 8-hour day working the handheld. I'm talking about going 30 minutes, working an hour, move it to another location. You will be very successful in understanding the due processes, the back end processes for that, and you will still have a large impact on slowing people down.
You've been very thorough in answering my questions. I appreciate that. I swear, last one, Chief Otto, in your perfect world, which one would you start with? The mobile device or the LiDAR?
Which one would I start with?
Chief Otto.
Okay.
Given everything it sounds like you've asked a lot of questions. So for our police department, I would like you to just weigh in on which one you think that we should consider as our first option.
Well, I think for the reasons Russell has given, I think the LiDAR, start with that and figure out what we're doing. Now, and you correct me if I'm wrong, there's no time frame. We have to try this out for 20 days. Yeah. Why not? Why not start cheap and slow? Like Russell said, figure out what we're doing, see if it's even worth it.
And we have the human power, we have the staff, obviously.
Yes. And Russell, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The LiDAR is just like a radar gun, except the police officer, has no contact with the person driving the car. They clock it in, it gets sent off to Russell's firm, and they handle the rest. They have no contact with an officer. And they can sit there and do this as long as they can push the activation device, they can do it indefinitely. I would, why wouldn't we start out like that to see what we're doing?
The handheld officer man LiDAR gun product is just as efficient as a $31,000 fixed pole or trailer if you have the manpower to man that system. Working together, so our company makes no money off of the sale of any hardware. And it's just practical and it makes sense when you're dealing with technology that nobody in here probably understood half of what we're talking about when it comes to the LiDAR, photo speed camera technology, the back office solution. It's just Greek, right? Until you put your hands on the entirety of the system, it'll start making sense. And then when the numbers start making sense, that you're not having to go into the general fund budget to actually fund something that the police department is doing to officer public safety, it's paying for itself. It becomes more sense to keep a system like that. So there's no sense in capital outlay of $31,000 or like Morrison did $56,000 when you can start with zero and just be able to come up with manpower as a pilot program to prove the concept out and get a better understanding of, is this going to work for us? We only make money if we process a ticket. Just remember that. And the other thing that I want to say that I didn't explain it well, we do a free public awareness video campaign. My business partner is Craig Stevens. He's the owner of the second owner of the company. He's a professional video production guy. He will come in here prior to your 30-day warning period. We will interview the mayor, interview the chief, interview people in the community. We will explain why speed kills. Why is it important not to be driving 8 to 10 miles over the posted speed limit in a 20-mile-an-hour zone or a 30-mile-an-hour zone? All of that will be launched 30 days prior to the 30-day warning period. We recommend coming back quarterly and doing more public awareness videos, educating the public that there was a initial start of X number of tickets. It has reduced by 50%. Now you're educating the public and you have the ammunition to keep the system moving forward because it's effective. It's working.
Thank you. That was thorough and I so appreciate you answering all my questions. You sold me on it. The
Thank you.
LiDAR. Chief, you know, I
Yeah.
respect that you know what you need. And if this is something that you're confident that we can start with, I'm on board. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Excuse me, I don't think Natalie's had a chance to speak, but then we'll get to you, Julie. Natalie, did you have anything? Okay. All right, Julie, please.
How many officers do we generally have on duty at any given time? The answer probably depends on what day or what time of day. Can you give me an overview?
On days, we usually have anywhere from 2 to 4, no less than 2. Midnights, anywhere from usually 2 to 3, depending on how we're staffing at that particular time.
So do you realistically think, because I keep seeing in the newspaper about all the help that our police department is giving to Colorado Springs, making arrests on 30th Street, Fontanero, different places out of the city. Do we have enough staff time for someone to stand around holding a gun to do this pilot project?
Absolutely. Look, I can go out there myself. We have a commander, we have supervisors, we have officers that have time to do this. If we're really interested, the council in doing this, we can do a good study on it. I really think we can. As Russell said, we don't need to be out there for 8 hours a day. We can be out there half hour, move around town a little bit, make sure we're getting areas. I know we can do that.
Okay, and then my other question is to you guys, when you talk about us getting ready for what's the terminology, back office process, is that, as far as I've heard, the only thing that our police department has to do is look at the daily list that you're going to send us so that they can also just double check the matching process. So I don't know, half an hour. I guess if we get 10,000 speeders, it'll take longer. But I mean, is there anything else involved in this back office process?
Sure. So again, we're a software company that.
Your process, just what the concept.
No. I want to thoroughly explain that because each municipality is different. Morrison had an existing system that they use to input criminal tickets in. That's called Casale. I don't know if you guys currently use Casale. If you do use Casale, and I didn't know this until just now, we've already integrated with Casale. So what that means is when we infuse that process into the overall process. So in other words, at midnight, when after the chief has designated his personnel to approve X number of citations that are in the system, it simultaneously transmits secure SFTP transfer from our system over to Casale, so that is then uploaded into Casale and then simultaneously gets uploaded into Express Bill Pay. Do you guys use Express Bill Pay as well? I didn't know this either. So you're already set up because we've completely integrated with Casale and Express Bill Pay where the automations already take place. So you're going to use the same systems that your administration, the police department, and your clerks already use because we are already integrated with that system. So those would be the additional processes.
So does that mean a human is going to be looking at this list that gets sent to us every midnight, or does this other system double check it for us?
No, ma'am, it's stored in there as a court management type system and a ticket retention system. Our system already stores every PDF that's in the system, but some municipalities wish to keep the current system that they got. We don't charge extra to make that integration in
So
there.
my initial question was, is there anything the police have to do besides read the list once a day?
Yes.
And make sure that the numbers match? And the answer is yes, they have
Yes.
to do this integration thing.
No, ma'am, not that part. That
Oh.
would be.
What else do they have to do?
Yeah, they would have to answer the phone. You're going to
Oh,
be in
phone
it.
calls.
Yeah, I would recommend setting up a designated email address and a designated phone line, as I expressed to the chief, based on our experiences, to keep you guys on top of this so that when people call in, you're responsive to the people that are calling in.
Oh, yeah, because otherwise they'd have to go through dispatch and they'll never reach us. My final question is, so under state law, this is maybe a question for the lawyer. So under state law, the appeal goes to the police chief, which sounds kind of like the fox guarding the chicken coop, but whatever. I mean, this is maybe more technical than, I don't know how many people are going to appeal, but
I can get.
does it end
technical.
up in court eventually if you disagree with the police?
Yeah,
appeal?
so holding is most technical. When you get the ticket and kind of, I think it was on the Morrison ticket, you can request a hearing. That hearing goes to the city. The bill doesn't lay out how that hearing happens. I assume it would happen with the chief. That seems to be the most appropriate place for the hearing, but you guys can decide how you want to do that. If that hearing will result in a final order, that final order is then what is appealed to the municipal court.
Appeal to city.
Correct, yeah.
Good. Natalie?
Sure. I know we've kind of been gravitating toward the handheld, and I'm actually still interested in discussing the camera. I think it's bigger, it's visible, it feels a little less kind of secretive. And I think in terms of managing behavior, something like that feels better to me than maybe just a little handheld device that may feel like it's less, I don't know, of a deterrent and be more of a surprise when you get something in the mail. So I
Except
just
the
want,
box is so tiny, who's going to see it?
are they that tiny? How big are the boxes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a good question that you were going, that I really would like to answer. So as a retired police officer, a lot of times police departments create problems within the community itself. In other words, like we buy things and acquire things that we think deter certain behavior that really increase the behavior. Like if you go buy a speed display sign that tells you how fast you're going on the roadway out there and you drive past that sign every day and you realize there's no repercussions for you going 10 over the speed limit, it becomes a game, right? So what we try to do is focus on not looking for certain devices, but where the officers can also be covert where you're actually not aware that an officer was there or a device was there, and it makes you start paying attention to road signs in a specific jurisdiction. So that's a huge concept for the police department to overcome and for civilians to start understanding. When you're driving around, just start paying attention to how many speed signs that you really pay attention to in areas that you're not familiar with. You probably know where your speed signs are here in Manitou Springs, but if you drive into Colorado Springs and you turn down a neighborhood, you probably don't know what the speed limit is, and you probably feel like, based on the roadway conditions, how it feels safe for you to drive is how you determine how fast you're driving, and you're not really paying to speed signs. So I hope that kind of.
Yeah, I would have thought it was the opposite of where we're
Yeah.
going, but it sounds like you want it to be kind of a surprise.
I
so that
do.
It could be anywhere. at
And
any
so,
time.
hold on, I just want to say, that's my personal opinion, right? Like, I feel like my experience and the way I've been dealing with this from the company standpoint, Covert offers the best ability to change the behavior of speeders because they don't know where it's coming from. If they know a police unit is there, they're going to slow down. If they know the trailer is there, typically they're going to slow down. That's an outcome that you do want, right? Because it's different than just a mobile display trailer that's telling you how fast you're going. They know that you have a mobile speed trailer. They are going to slow down 75 to 80% of the people coming here that's aware of that. So that does work. But the ones that don't know about it, they'll be engaged at looking for speed signs to curb their speeding problems.
I just want to add one additional, the law required, whether you use the kind of the unit or the LiDAR, you have to have a sign 300 feet before this corridor starts. So it's not, about, being covert, that's not necessarily going to play in with what type you use. I mean, if people just kind of see the sign and then they move on and then they see the big device, maybe that would, but regardless of what you use, there's going to be a sign 300 feet before any sort of detection happens.
Great, thank you. I've got several comments here. First off, with the big device, the $31,000, I don't suppose those have ever been vandalized.
Yeah, I sure they have. It has not been vandalized in Morrison since its deployment. I can attest to that.
You said that would be one consideration. I mean, it just, you could imagine somebody with an upset person with a tire iron mind, but
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
it's better to go after a machine than a police officer.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, but that would be down the road. I generally like this approach. So the idea we've had so many times, we've had the room, close to being filled with people complaining about traffic safety. Crystal Park Road comes to mind, Becker's Lane, El Paso, and some of that. So I think the ability to have portable enforcement is good. It's objective. I mean, the cameras aren't going to lie. This is basically physics in a city ordinance, and I think that's reasonably, and we're going to have a reasonable approach to enforcement there. It's flexible. I like the idea of, as the chief proposed, to start slow and small and get some experience, work our way into it. I think it's important to have a period of education or leniency. I think Mr. Shada had spoken to that. I guess I would be inclined, if we were going to dedicate the revenue to a special fund, to at least kind of have broad guidelines that could be used for traffic and pedestrian safety. John, I think maybe you were a little bit more specific, but I think we're probably of similar ilk in that thinking. My sense of council is that we're generally supportive of this. I see heads nodding. So, Chief, I guess, yeah, okay, just a minute here. We're going to let Mr. Shada make a comment here, but Chief, I guess we're probably going to be giving you some direction to go ahead with this. This may be an informational meeting. John?
Bill, can you answer this question? I was just looking through the weekly reports and looking at your category of traffic stops, okay? And looking over 12 weeks, okay? The average week, we're only doing 12 traffic stops. So I'm assuming because it's a traffic stop, we're having to spend what, a half hour or something like that overhead for each one of those traffic stops because it involves a vehicle chasing them down, getting them to stop, being safe at the stop, writing the ticket and the whole 9 yards, right? I mean, there's a certain
That-
amount of time.
Yeah, usually a traffic stop shouldn't take, unless it turns into a DUI or something like that, shouldn't take any more than 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
It shouldn't.
Okay.
And there's, various factors, maybe weather or whatever could extend it, or somebody can't find the registration or something like that. But generally 20 minutes is what we look for officers to complete a traffic stop.
Okay, so I guess what I'm just curious about, given that kind of number, okay, in terms of 20 minutes, then that means 12 traffic stops a week, okay, times 20 minutes is currently right now what seems to be the amount of time the department is spending, enforcing the speed limit. Would you say that's fair? A way, how to calculate that?
Based on that factor alone, no, I don't think so. And I say that, we have, just like everybody else, we have so many officers out on the road, they could spend their entire shift going call to call to call and didn't have time to do a traffic stop.
Right. No, I'm just talking about just in an average week.
I understand.
So what I'm just trying to figure out, to me, it seems like to me where we're headed, I like the idea of starting out with a handheld device. I think it's a great idea. I think the vendors got a very good idea about not overwhelming the system with a whole bunch of, automated stuff that can just happen on the street. Okay, I really like that idea. I'm just trying to figure out in terms of just productivity wise with this device, how much enforcement time are we actually going to be spending in terms of, in your opinion, in terms of just officer time? Could I roughly take that 12 stops times 20 minutes and say that's roughly about how much time we would be using that device average on a week?
Well, I've never used it. As I said, I would think unless I'm misunderstanding something, we could double, triple, quadruple that easily. We're talking about an officer standing out on the street or in their car, literally pointing a radar gun at vehicles coming by, and if they're coming by one after another, it's getting them all. So
Right.
we could do a
Yeah, I
whole
understand how it's a lot more. I understand your point about a force multiplier. I'm just trying to figure out just kind of the duty cycle of how much time we could expect somebody is standing there with this device collecting, information in it.
Yeah,
And is that a reasonable thing to take these 12 traffic stops? Okay, and I realize we're sometimes doing these traffic stops because we're seeing somebody weaving, or we have some kind of knowledge that maybe they were drinking or whatever. I mean, there may be some purpose in which we're, going after them, right? I'm just trying to figure out with this device, are we going to engage this thing and then at the end of 3 months find out that, we spent, 5 hours a week with it? I'm just trying to figure out how much enforcement do you think we're going to get out of it?
Well, Mr. Shader, that's hard for me to answer. Without having them here. My feeling on it is we would definitely be able to spend a lot more time than we are currently spending on traffic enforcement. Thank you, sir.
I guess, Chief, what I would ask is if you go ahead and do this, maybe after the first 60 or 90 days, you'd come in and let us know how it's going. If
Yes,
that
sir.
would be reasonable, if once you've got some data that you can share with us. Okay. Okay, Julie, quick one.
If we're gonna have an attorney prepare an ordinance for us to review, it sounds to me like, and since the ordinance, if I understand correctly, has to identify which specific streets this will be used on, if necessary, I think it would make sense for us to have the ordinance simply say it'll be used anywhere within city limits. And that way we have flexibility. If we're gonna end up asking, if this is gonna wind up with us asking for an ordinance to be put together, I think it should be left generic.
The corridor has to be in the ordinance and has to be pretty specific.
Yeah, it has
So you
to have
can't
the
just say
streets.
anywhere within the city. You'd
Oh,
have to
really?
say
Have to-
between this street and this street. Yeah.
Oh, we can say between this street and this street, so we
Mhm.
can say between Serpentine Drive and the east end of town? Oh, same thing.
Julie, as I understand it, you can do enforcement anywhere in which more than 50% of the street is residential. and you can do enforcement, I believe, anywhere where there's a park. So
Oh, enforcement without a sign.
without it being
and without
delineated.
the
And,
ordinance?
and they have the specific term for it in terms of that the statute calls out. And I was looking at our street thing and I was going to recommend that we specifically pull out Manitou Avenue, Sunshine Trail, okay, and El Paso Boulevard, because every other street in the city has 50% residential. So that's my analysis. So any street that automatically has 50% residential the enforcement can happen
Without it being in the
without it being in the ordinance.
Oh,
Otherwise, you have to specify the street and the street numbers in the corridor. And those are the only three streets that I could think of that we needed to specifically draw out was Manitou Avenue, Sunshine Trail, okay, and El Paso Boulevard, which might not meet the 50% threshold.
Okay, council, I think we've talked this out pretty well. Denise, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we have to go through the ordinance process. So we're going to need some time to get that in place, bring it to you for a second and first reading. And then that gives Chief some time to look and see what he thinks he can do per time and how much time he can put in each week. And we'll bring that with the ordinance and then we'll start moving forward. We will put one of these trailers in the budget for next year. So we'll go ahead and add that in the budget for next year. We're in September, basically, so we're not very far from that budget season. So we'll go ahead and add it as part of the capital and then proceed accordingly. So that's the next direction. It would probably be the third week of September or the first week of October before the ordinance is done. We've got to look at it. We got to look at process. We've got to look at a lot of different things. So it's going to take just a little bit of time to get this in place.
Okay, great, thank you. If there's nothing else, council, this is informational, so we don't need to take any action, but I think we've given sufficient direction. Any further comments? Sorry, Judy.
Clarification that we are going with a LiDAR. Does the type of device have to be specified in the ordinance? Okay.
I don't think so.
I think it's a speed camera device or something like that. So
And we're only going with that, I think, short time until we can get everything in place and then we'll probably move to the camera just because staffing and 24 hours, et cetera, but it gives us the time, as Chief said, to get things moving and to start out slow.
Great, sounds good. Well, it was nice to have Russell and Russell here to field some questions and whatnot. Yeah, it was good, yeah.
it was good timing that they were already out here.
We'll bring y'all some boudin and meat pies next time.
Hey, we've got a Cajun cook here and he does the summers in Manitou.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
okay,
You
got to miss the season.
okay, great. Well, thank you all,
Thank
gentlemen.
you, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay. Next item. Let's consider appointing Mark Lee to the Manitou Arts, Heritage and Culture Board. And Mark has been waiting patiently along with Ralph Rutten. And in my understanding is it's Mark's birthday today. Do you want to sing happy birthday? Okay, to you, happy birthday. Okay, all right. Well, Ralph, do you want to open it up?
Ralph Roughton, 114 Palisade Circle, Chair of the Match Board. Not going to go into great detail. As you surely know, we've been shorthanded for the last year on the Match Board. We've run at 6 instead of 7, in part, well, for a variety of reasons, but also we had 2 great alternates who we still have, Jason Wells and also Nancy Wilson, who are continuing. But we knew we couldn't keep going along shorthanded. And Mark Lee expressed an interest a few months back, and we have progressed to this point. We were thrilled to have Mark take an interest in us. He was on the Manitou Arts Center Board. He's been involved with various things in the community, including you've probably seen his photos from the drum circles every week on Facebook. But there's much, much more than that, including his work and service at Colorado College. I in a letter recommended him heavily, strongly for your approval as a new member, and hopefully we can take it from there.
Great, thank you. Council, I think the packet was pretty thorough with all the required background information regarding Mr. Lee's application. So I guess this would be a good time to, if we have questions or comments for Mark, this would be an opportunity. And Mark, after that, if you'd like to make a statement, that'd be fine. Thank you. Anyone? Comments? Mark, if you've got something to say, this is a good time.
Yeah, Mark Lee, 413 Washington Avenue. I want to thank you for the opportunity to apply for this role. I want to thank all of you for everything that you do for the community. I do feel very aligned with the mission of the Match Board to reinvest the funds that are collected through the sales tax into supporting our local arts and culture. I personally have seen firsthand the value that comes through to the community members with these match grants. And I am committed to objectively reviewing the grant applications and ensuring that these funds are distributed in a way that truly helps support the arts and culture of the community. That's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we appreciate your willingness to step up. Judith?
I move to approve Mark Lee to the regular position on the Manitou Arts, Heritage and Culture Board. We'd be lucky to have you.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Welterholt. Okay. If there's no further discussion, let's vote.
And the motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Mark,
you.
Thank you for stepping up. Gentlemen, thanks for your patience in waiting through this.
We also have Peter Summers, who was here and spoke earlier. He's also on our match board.
That's right. Yes, thank you, Peter. Okay, super.
All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, and happy birthday too. Now you can get cake and ice cream or whatever. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, next item is a hearing. It's a second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 0724, an ordinance amending sections of chapter 5.06 to update liquor licensing provisions in the Manitou Springs Municipal Code. We heard this 2 weeks ago on first reading. We have Judy here to walk us through this. I don't think there have been any changes. Do you have anything to say?
This, what's being presented to you tonight is the same as what you adopted on first reading. And to recap, it is a quite a slew of housekeeping changes that have come about because of state law changes over the last several years. So your agenda memo sort of captures the broad categories of changes. The 3-2 beer that does not exist anymore statutorily was a big change. It got rid of all those references to the 3-2 beer. They've updated the language, capturing what your role is as liquor licensing authority, and expanded the types of permits which have been created since your ordinance was passed, and removed some unnecessary language that was really duplicative of state law that didn't need to be contained in both places. And you have the ordinance in front of you in your packet. You have a markup version of your current code that incorporates those changes. So I'm here for any questions if there are any. We talked about this quite a bit at the last meeting.
Any questions for Judy? I guess not. We will have a public, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public comments this time. Anyone who'd like to can make public comment. Have we received anything either? Or? No takers. Okay, with all due respect, then, the public hearing is closed, public comments portion. Okay, seems like this might be a good time for a motion.
I move
Nancy?
oh, sorry.
So, go ahead, Nancy.
I move to, on second hearing to adopt ordinance number 0724, an ordinance amending sections of chapter 5.06 to update liquor licensing provisions in the Manitou Springs Municipal Code.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Natalie. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Judy, thank you much. And Nick, your office was involved in that, so thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to council correspondence. Does anybody have anything? Julie?
I have two things. One is, I just want to make sure that we have a reservation system in place by June when Hiawatha starts up, because we've been talking so much about the demo and the shuttles, and that's an essential component so that people can make reservations in advance. And I understand our current system doesn't allow for that. So hopefully Roy or someone can do all that research and figure that out for us in time.
Is that the direction of council?
Well, that's
not-
just me talking. I just haven't heard any conversation about that lately, and I just wanted to make sure that didn't fall through the cracks.
Yeah, I think so. We do have a reservation program called Honk. And I do believe it did work last year. So I don't see why that wouldn't work for the Dillon.
Okay, so we could have Honk hook in with the COG reservation system, that.
Oh, it's with the cog. Oh, that's a different, I don't know
You know, or
that.
with the incline. I mean, that was the whole
Oh.
idea of trying to target those two populations, right? So that they would make their reservation in advance, come into town without having to cruise around for 20 minutes. I thought that was, anyway, it sounds like the answer is Honk will take care of us.
We have a reservation system. I don't know how it will work with their reservation system. So that would have to be a discussion we have with Colorado Springs.
So can we have that discussion so that we have it all ready to rock and roll by June?
Do you want to answer?
Yeah. So is that the direction that we have been given by all of council? Because I don't remember that specific direction by June, and
No,
I'm
I
just
don't-
trying to make sure I have the right direction.
I don't remember.
Well, yeah, we just had
Okay.
conversations about how the mayor said that he had talked with previous Mayor Suthers about how he thought it was a great idea to hook this in with the COG reservation or I mean, with the incline reservation system. And we haven't apparently done anything formal, but I thought I should bring it up because I thought at least that was part of our discussion in the past when we decided to buy the Dillon.
Okay, that was at a high level. I mean, we talked with John Suthers and also with Gary Pearson about trying to do that, and they were amenable at the time to, continue discussions. They thought it was a good idea, but at the time that was postulated on using the LaFawn property, and so when that took a different direction, we didn't continue those
Well, this
discussions.
is right across the street. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it sounds like we need to get on board with that and figure that out.
No, that's a good point. And I was going to mention that Denise and Roy and I had met with Yemi and some of his staff was a week ago yesterday. And of course, what they were asking for was to have a replacement MOU. And I mean, that's what the Colorado Springs Park and Rec had asked for. Based on that meeting, we said, we think the MOU is basically pretty sound. Let's start getting the parties back together talking because, the Manitou staff and the Colorado Springs staff had stopped talking. Previously they had been talking about once a month and working problems on a day-to-day basis. So the general direction was to work together again, work out problems. And so, this is a germane question. I mean, and your comment that would fall into the,
Right, because it's our job to offer them the reservation system. They're not going to figure it out for us. I mean, it's our parking lot. I just thought somebody should work on it.
Okay, I think that probably one of a number of topics that.
The other
inclined
thing I
folks to
wanted to
talk about.
bring up is the events that run in Soda Springs Park anywhere from Sunday night through Thursday night. Some of the bands, like their last week, played until 10 p.m. It was so loud. School was already back in session. Most of my neighbors have their windows open because we don't have AC. And I would really like to see that in the summer, even when school's not in session, it's just so obnoxious for the residents to have to listen to this loud music after 9 p.m. really. So I'd really like to see at least an hour less, so have it end at 9 instead of 10. And I'm speaking for myself, but it's noisy, and you know how it echoes on the canyon, through the canyon, and it's just obnoxious. And I don't think it's necessary. I mean, how many people on a weeknight need to be listening to music in the dark after 9 p.m.? Go somewhere else if you need to do that. So that's my suggestion. I think it's an ordinance thing, or is it just up to the chamber, or is it up to, I mean, I don't know where the 10 p.m. came from, but wherever it is, I'd like it to be changed to 9. Where does it come from? Is that just Denise's decision or what?
That's the noise ordinance, and typically the police would enforce that. And I believe
I think the noise ordinance is after 10.
I think it's after
But I'd
10.
like events to end at 9.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I
At
think
least
with
when it's
the,
not the weekend.
in the case of, and of course, you're talking about Soda Springs Park, down at Memorial Park, when they do the drum circle, I believe the shutdown time is 9, and then at 10 o'clock, the sprinklers come on. So in that case, we have another way of encouraging the compliance with the enforcement. So I guess maybe we need more sprinklers up in Soda Springs Park. Okay. All right.
Who's in charge of deciding that the Soda Springs Park events will end at 10 instead of 9? Who makes that decision?
Denise, can you speak to that?
I just need some time to research. I need to look at our special events thing in the ordinance. So can I get back with you?
I think that'd be good. And I wouldn't be surprised, knowing how our code sometimes works, is that we maybe have it in 2 places with 2 different answers. So maybe we may have to go in there and do a little bit of maintenance.
I just can't
Okay.
look everything up right now with all the details. So if I have some
That's
time,
okay.
that would be
Okay,
great.
that's fine. We're
just-
coming to the end of the summer, so.
Because I didn't even know, it may make a difference if it's a chamber event or if it's a city event, but I really think they should coordinate to end at 9. Thank you.
Okay,
That's all I
sure.
have.
Okay. Other comment, Nancy?
Yeah, just if you weren't aware that Colorado Springs has voted, their city council has voted to put it on their ballot in November to put in their city charter that there will be no retail marijuana sales there. And there will also be another initiative, a citizens initiative to have retail marijuana. So it's going to be a very interesting vote that I think we'll be very interested in the results of.
Very interesting. Let's see. Okay, Judith?
I don't have anything to share. However, I would like to just segue on to what Counselor Wolf originally mentioned, because we didn't really get any closure on how, with regards to the incline reservation system, moving forward with continued negotiations, or what, I mean, where are we and where are we going with that? I think it's really important that we keep that front and center, and I just didn't want that conversation to die there.
So today I started actually meeting with Colorado Springs to talk about the management plan. And tomorrow we have our FERS meeting for the month. So what we are going to do is let the FERS group know that we are looking at the management plan, and Manitou Springs is going to come with their needs to make the incline work. Colorado Springs is going to come with their needs and what they need to be doing based on the management plan. And then we're going to start working that out, and then include stakeholders, including council in those decisions.
Are the minutes of those meetings still being posted?
They I don't know if let's see, the last one we did was in April. They're supposed to be posted. I think the one wasn't for April, but all the other ones were. And June was posted, I think. So they did miss 1 month of posting it, but I think Jillian's getting on that to get it posted. So we are doing minutes.
And are any of those discussions including tying the reservation to prepaid parking?
Well, we just started that today. So I think it's after looking at some other national parks, they do have parking tied in with the fees. And I think it's definitely a discussion we need to have with them on how we can maybe work that out. So it's actually a good idea to see how we tie that together. So that will be part of our discussion. Yeah.
Thank you, Roy.
You're welcome.
And I would ask that simultaneously you also have somebody research whether Honk will do that for us or whether we need to go to a different system, because if we're going to piecemeal it and spend 6 months talking to Colorado Springs about it, and then we're going to look into it, it'll just be a huge delay. I mean, I'm hoping to get this in place by June and for us to be able to discuss it with the COG as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
I had a couple of other things too. It's the September 3rd meeting, one of our agenda items is to review the new IGA with PPRTA. So we've come to the end, or we're coming to the end of the second installment of PPRTA, and necessarily there's bookkeeping and we basically have some legal housekeeping to take care of to move us into PPRTA 3, which is now essentially the third decade. I've got it on the consent calendar. Of course, if anybody wants to take it off, we can do that and discuss it in more detail. We probably have Rick Sonnenberg from PPRTA here either way, but if we need more personnel, I guess I'm trying to get a sense of how curious council wants to be. It's pretty bland. All the information will be in your packet. Rick will be here. But I think we can handle it just with consent calendar.
Do I remember correctly that even if we leave the PPRTA, we still have to pay dues? So there really isn't a whole lot to discuss. We either pay and get something back or we pay and get nothing.
I think we're pretty well stuck, but it's a formality we have to go through. So, okay, we'll entertain that on the 3rd. Yeah, John?
I believe it's their prerogative as to whether they let us go or not. Okay.
And I think the prerogative would be no, but you've got a point. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. A couple of other things. Last week, Colorado Springs City Council, one of the things they did also was they voted down the Amara development. Nancy and I both spoke. Then Nancy did quite a nice job and was quoted in the Gazette. What that did for Manitou in practical terms, it saved Manitou ratepayers $315,000 over 11 years. That was what CSU had projected the additional fee would be on Manitou ratepayers, and we would have gotten nothing for that. So that was a bit of a victory. Yeah, John?
Was that only on the residential calculation?
That was everything. That was a spreadsheet they gave me.
Okay, no, but I mean, because the fees were different for the commercial users. Was that only for?
That was aggregate.
That was aggregate
yeah,
for
over 11
commercial and
years,
residential.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then let's see. Next week, we will not have a meeting. So that's the Tuesday before Labor Day. If you want to do something fun, do something fun. And tomorrow, and Denise sent an email, and I also sent it out again yesterday or this morning. There's a fire insurability discussion sponsored by CML tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 5. That might be something of interest to y'all. And that's all I've got. Anything else from council? Okay, let's
Just thank you very much to both you and Mayor Pro Tem for the letter you sent and for also speaking in person to Colorado Springs City Council.
Okay. Yeah, Nancy stayed for the vote. It was, I think, interesting. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. City Administrator's report.
Just 2 items real quick. Team Rubicon is coming Wednesday through Tuesday to do fire mitigation. So they'll be out here with volunteers, and then we'll be working on the Serpentine Road We're not going to spend a lot of money on the road itself because next year we're going to be working on the Creek Walk Trail and that road segment. So we're going to do minor repairs. We started today and then we'll have it chip sealed. Just for the record, that hairpin turn is El Paso County property and not Manitou Springs nor CDOT's. And I had that verified today as they were claiming it was ours, but CDOT also verified it was El Paso County. So we're trying to get them to fix that little section of road. Whether we team to do that and they let us and they pay us to do that segment while we're doing the other segment, or they do it on their own, either way, it needs to be repaired. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, Julie, go ahead.
Do you happen to know where the fire mitigation team will be focusing?
Yes, they're going to come tomorrow to assess certain areas, but right now we have the Brush Road, which is behind Pilot Knob, and that section in there is really bad in between the houses.
Oh, that was what you had in the email.
Yeah.
Already. Oh, okay.
So that's going to be done, and then Deer Valley Park is going to be done. And then the other areas we're going to be looking at is part of the reservoir area there, and then possibly the creek here in Manitou might be able to do some help and mitigation, some of the creek debris. So we'll have to see. There's only so many volunteers and so much time. So.
Thank you.
Okay, Nancy?
Mentioning the creek and mitigation, there's a tree down. It looks like it's in the creek. You're aware of it?
We are
At
aware.
Green Willow?
Yes, it's on private property and they're aware we assessed it and it's going to be worked on to be removed.
Okay, with all this rain, it's been making me nervous. So
Yes.
thanks.
Great. Thanks, Roy. Denise?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Please remember that October 12th is the all-day budget presentation. Book the whole day if you could from 8:30 until 4 so that we can have that depending on how long that goes. So that's right around the corner and I wanted to remind everybody of that one. And then today I just got an update on the library project and it now looks like it's going to be somewhere between November 8th through November 15th before it's completed. Of course, that is a moving target. We know with construction projects and historical buildings that changes on a pretty regular basis. So I just wanted to update you on that project at this point.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Not surprised. Okay, good night. Thanks, everybody.